Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine. Feel free to hit that link if you have a minute. Peace and respect, Marty, and also Sammy and Silver Wolf. We're just going to have a casual night. Just kind of kicking the can down the street. Nothing serious. Flow State's recharging his phone. We're working on assessing an engine in a pretty nice little Cadillac, little sporty thing. And whatever happens, happens. All conversations welcome. Within reason. That is, I won't be bringing Jill in tonight, even if he shows up. All right, guys, what's the conversation tonight? What's your flavor? Bring a topic. Over there on Sammy and Will's stream, sharing stream, multi-streaming, we were talking about theism and military experience and power tools, and that finally evolved into the vehicles that Flow State is working on. It's kind of cold where I am. I'll be wearing my jacket. Going to need somebody to come in, though, or I'm going to start reading the Coherent Bible because it's all I got. It's funny. I'm probably one of the least creative people you'd ever meet. Seriously. Downright boring, in fact. Very predictable. Price of tea in Guatemala? That's an interesting topic, Ox. Peace and respect, Ox. I don't know. Sammy's in the chat somewhere if he's still here. Peace and respect, Von Eric. Blessings to you as well. Feel free to hit that link if you have a minute, Von Eric. I asked. I don't know much about, I'm an American, which means ignorant of the planet on average. That's what that means. I don't know much, but I know I love you. Yeah, I don't know much about American politics. I don't know much about American sports. I don't know much about the rest of the world. I don't know much about pop culture. I don't know much about space or physics or the sciences or mathematics. I'm starting to try to learn a little bit of something about logic. And it's been really good. Space Cadet or Halcyonic Kaiju, I have no idea what those words mean, has been going through these exercises with us over on Sammy/Williams channel. And some of that has aired live. Really recommend it. For me, probably not interesting to everyone, but really interesting stuff in my opinion. Ox, I wouldn't mind learning about your traditions because I understand you're of a Native American tribe. I don't know which one, but those are always interesting stories. And someone's backstage. We have us a Von Eric. Welcome, Von Eric. You are muted on StreamYard.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to cut my other YouTube. Blessing, brother.
Blessings to you as well. Is that your baby in that picture?
Yeah, that's my little man right there. Yeah.
Well, thanks for all your dad work. I know those kids, they're a bunch of work.
Oh man. And this is my first and only one, and I had him at a late age. So
How old are you?
I'm 53 now. But I
You're
had him,
53 and the kid's like what, 10 now?
yep, he's 9. He just turned 9.
9? Just
Mhm.
turned 9. Wow, that's an amazing age. Like they are so curious about everything. Is he?
Yeah, he's curious, but I was a laid back child, so he's laid back. He's like twice as me. He's really laid back. So, but he's curious, like because I homeschool him. When it's things that he's very interested in, he asks a lot of questions. Um,
Right on.
a better grip on the understanding, which is amazing to me. But yeah.
So what's he working on right now? What's his favorite topic?
he believe it or not, he loves science. He loves science. He loved geography. When we did geography, he was loving that. I certain days of a week, I have a cook. I do a cooking class with him, and now he told his grandma he wants to be a chef. So,
Wow.
uh,
Is he any good at it? I mean, because to me, cooking seems more of an art than a science.
yes, yes. He he's he really likes. He's pretty good at it. He's trying to get his spices down.
Yeah.
Which one goes with the meal best? The spices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so he really likes like a lot of fruits to go with some of his dishes, like the chicken and the beef. I guess that's on his mom's side with the mango and the different fruits and stuff like that. So he likes to mix that within his meals. So which is very interesting to me the way because his grandma sent him some kid chef books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he's caught on pretty good to that.
It sounds like Islander foods, like
Hmm.
to use fruits with meats. That's something that's very not English.
Right. His mom is uh, uh, Dominican, Dominican. So I think that's where he got that side from. That's why I said it come from not my side, but her side. So yeah,
Where are your folks from?
my dad's side is Virginia, um, Indian. That's my dad, and my mom is Georgia.
Which Indian culture? Because there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, Cherokee. I think my dad. I think they Cherokee, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta ask my mom again, to be specific. But yeah, they have matter of fact they're from Lynchburg, Virginia.
Isn't that a terrible name for a town?
Yes. Yes,
Like
it is.
you'd think they'd have changed that about the 1950s,
Right, yeah, right.
but they
Yeah,
didn't.
they sure didn't.
Who was it? I think it was Chris Rock. He
Hmm.
goes, yeah, I avoid Lynchburg. I always go around it through Tar and Featherville. Isn't that terrible? Whew. He says, you can live through Tar and Featherville. I'm not going to Lynchburg. Forget it.
Right. Yeah.
Terrible joke.
Yeah. I'm supposed to because I haven't been, tell you the truth, but we're supposed to do it sometime this summer. Um Me, my sister. Um well my sister we just got in touch with each other a few years ago. This is on my dad's side. Um
Okay.
and we're supposed to get together and all go down there. because they got some monuments down there. Some school they I think it's historical. What they call it when they put something that you can't destroy it or something like that. They have it up here too because my
You mean like a national monument, something
yeah,
like that?
national monument. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. So they got a school up here. I have it on both sides. I have it on the family down there, and then up here where I'm from in Maryland, in Lutherville, we have a school. It's a national monument that people come up and visit and stuff like that.
Is the Lutheran religion big in Lutherville? Just curious.
They have a few of them, but it's not big in there. It was years ago. Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm talking about years ago. But it's not as way as it used to be.
There's a link in the top of the side chat, Gary Priestley, if you feel like it. My dad was Navy, and he was career Navy. So I have two siblings that were born in Key West, Florida. Two siblings born in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I was born in Washington State.
Oh, okay.
I got one brother that was born in Boston, near Quonset Point, and one brother born in Knoxville, Tennessee. So that covers it. So it was always around a naval base.
Wow.
Everything. Yeah.
So the Key West down there, I heard they have places down there that only the people that live down there knows how to get through the all those, I think they call them bayous and things like that. Is that true?
You mean like really heavy swampy areas and stuff? Yeah. Little tiny streams that cut through the land masses.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of that apparently. Yeah.
That's what I heard. That down there, only the people down there that live down there, that grew up down there, even the police doesn't know or anything down there. They can hide a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff down there. I heard.
Well, Gary Priestley, I have to critique your logic here. I mean, you're typing in side chat, and unless you're a radio personality or television personality where people would recognize your voice, all you have to do is have a set of earbuds that have a microphone on them and plug in and then join once that's plugged in. And you can keep your camera off and we'll hear your voice, of course, which is much easier than typing. And you'll be able to say a lot more quickly and get your ideas your ideas across better, because we'll be able to hear your inflection. Like where you capitalized the word any right there, you could have just said it with more emphasis instead of having to type it different. And isn't typing clumsy anyway? Don't you hate typing?
Yeah,
I hate typing.
I can't stand it.
I can't stand it because, I mean, over the course of time, I have learned that Ox is generally joking almost all the time.
Right.
Ox is all about the humor. But if you just read his comments without understanding that over time, and a lot of people have done this, they think Ox is a jerk, but he's not.
Right.
He's just kidding. He's just pulling your leg.
Yeah.
Right. But it takes so long to get that out of written word, where if you heard a person's voice, you'd know first sentence, you'd know they were kidding you,
Yeah. If you don't have the tone, you don't hear the tone or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I prefer to be able to hear a person's voice rather than read whatever they write. It's so difficult to understand them at any meaningful level from what they write.
Yeah, unless you really know the person, then you're like, oh man, he's just kidding, or he just
Yeah. Well, Gary Priestley, so if ever you decide, I promise if you come into one of my streams, I will treat you harshly with disrespect and accuse you of everything I can accuse you of and just abuse you. And that way you'll have a nice thick skin if you ever go on another stream.
I read a paper. I think last time we spoke, sometime. Dang, I gotta pull it up because you told me to try to read and research classic logic.
Yeah.
So I had this paper. Dang, I can't find it now. But it was in PDF. So I was reading a little bit of it. But I wanted to now I can't find it. I know next time I come
It's
across.
okay.
I wanted you to see would this be a good read? Let me see if I can pull it up.
Well, that's going to require you be able to read it to me. So yeah, you're going to have to find it now.
All right, let me see if I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I have to check that out. Everybody go and check that out and give Ox a like when you get a minute. It's only 23 minutes. It won't kill you to watch that. Ox, post your link. Make it easy for us. Can you even imagine what the fleas of 1,000 oxen would look like? Like, I'm having trouble imagining that. It would just look like a black swarm of stuff moving. Maybe dark brown to black swarm. It would. I don't know what that would look like. I've seen dogs that were just horrific with fleas, where you peel back some of their hair and their skin is just dark brownish black and it's moving.
Let me see. Let me put this. I put it in a private chat. I don't know what this is. One of the ones I pulled up, but I didn't know as far as.
All right. I've got it up on another screen. I'm going to bring it up front and center in just a minute, as soon as I get to some part of it that matters. Nice. This looks pretty thorough. This looks like it's going to be mathematical logic. Let me scroll down a little bit and find out what we got here.
Okay.
So mathematical logic is right proper logic, but it's actually rather advanced. It's not where you want to start out with.
Oh,
so
okay.
let me read a little bit of this and see how advanced it is, and say whether or not this is the sort of thing you want to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is highly advanced. This is not where you want to start.
Okay.
Like you need all of your basic logic and learning of all the symbols before you're going to do like mathematical classical logic like this. So let me see if I can find. There's no sense in bringing that up. Let me see if I can find something a little bit more apropos of where we actually are.
Okay.
Wish I had Halsey's link right now. Okay. Here we go. I found something. This looks pretty good. Let me just copy this, and I'm gonna put it directly in the side chat.
Okay.
And you can pick it up there. I'll put it in private chat as well, just so it's easy to find. And I'm going to share screen on that one. That's the right one, yeah. I think it's right. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right, you got a good screen. You can see that. Do I need to do anything to make it bigger?
Nope, I can see it.
Okay. Well, just in case, I'm going to make it as big as I can.
Okay.
All right. All right. So they're calling it basic concepts of logic. All right. All right. So this is important because this is, I mean, why should you bother to learn logic, right? I'll give you a real quick example. This lady I work for, she's a single income family. Her daughter died. She's taking care of her 2 teenage boys. She got a lot on her plate. And she's very educated in the educational system as like a teacher or overseeing teachers. And she retired out of the school system. But she doesn't know much things about like mechanics of a car, things like that, right?
Okay.
So I've been working with her for a while, working for her and with her for a while, and she's come to trust me to some extent, as much as she thinks is reasonable. And she bought this other property, and the well had already been dug, but the property never got finished, and the place hadn't been lived in 10 years, and we tried the water well pump, and it didn't work. So she cut a check to a company for I think it was $800 for them to go and check out the well and see if it produces water and see what's wrong with it or whatever, to assess it. They come back to her and they say, well, we didn't realize there's no power on the property. This property is so far away from telephone poles that if you just looked at a map, you would automatically know there's no electricity there. It's that far from everything. So they went out there and they hooked up just a simple resistance meter. And they said, well, the coils in the pump are good. That's what they reported back. And she told me this. And I said, well, Joni, you don't know if the pump works or not because they never made it pump water. She goes, yeah, but I don't know what to do. And they said they did their job and blah, blah, blah. I said, I'll tell you what, put him on the phone with me. So she calls up the office manager, puts him on the phone with me. And I said, so you received a check from this woman for $800. And that $800 was supposed to give her the information. Does it pump water or not? You returned information. Are the coils in the pump good? Now, is the coils in the pump good the same thing as it pumps water? And the woman says, well, no. I said, so have you earned that $800? She goes, well, no. I said, okay, she's canceling the check. Do you have any objections to that? And the woman said, well, no, I don't have any objections. I said, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Logic may be defined as the science of reasoning. However, this is not to suggest that logic is an empirical or experimental or observational science like chemistry or biology.
Right.
Science like they're going to give examples. Science like physics, biology, and psychology. Rather, logic is a non-empirical science like mathematics. Also, in saying that logic is the science of reasoning, we do not mean that it is concerned with the actual mental or physical process employed by a person thinking by a thinking entity when it is reasoning. That is, we're not talking about biochemistry here.
Mm-hmm.
The investigation of the actual reasoning process falls more appropriately within the province of psychology, neurophysiology, or cybernetics. Even if these empirical disciplines were considerably more advanced than they presently are, the most they could disclose is the exact process that goes on in a person's head when he or she is reasoning. They could not, however, tell us whether the being is reasoning correctly or incorrectly. So the whole idea is to standardize what is good thinking and what is not good thinking, if that made sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I think a person can easily see why bad reasoning would have left my employer paying $800 for practically nothing.
Nothing. Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
So it translates to real life in real time. Saves you time, saves you money, makes it difficult for people to lie to you. So in real ways, very, very useful.
Right.
Okay. So that's the sales pitch. Reasoning is a special mental activity called inferring, which can also be called making or performing inferences. The following is a useful and simple definition of the word infer.
Okay.
In place of word premises, you can also put the word data or information or facts. So data, information, and facts is what we mean by a premise.
Okay.
And what they're trying to do, and you say, well, why don't they just use the word data instead of premise? They're trying to standardize a word that means many things that's not used elsewhere.
Right.
So that if someone says, what do you think of this premise? You you have all this background information as to what that means. And it's kind of a shorthand to make it simpler to clarify.
Right.
You see smoke and infer there is a fire. Like the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's an inference. Okay. Because there could be smoke without fire, but it's inferred that there is fire, right?
Right.
So it's most reasonable to believe there are things that smoke without fire, but most commonly, usefully in real life, if there's smoke, there's fire.
That fire, right?
Right. Or if you count 19 persons in a group that originally had 20, and you infer that someone is missing, right? Something like that. Please note carefully the difference between infer and imply, which are sometimes confused but should not be. We infer the fire on the basis of the smoke, but we do not imply the fire.
Right.
On the other hand, the smoke implies the fire, but does not infer the fire. Right. The word infer is not equivalent to the word imply, nor is it equivalent to insinuate. Okay. Would you read the next section, please?
Well, let me say the reasoning. Is that it? The right here, the reasoning process?
Yeah, right there, please. Yes.
Okay. The reasoning process may be thought of as beginning with input, premises, data, etc., and producing output, conclusion, in each specific case of drawing, inferring a conclusion, C, from premise P1, P2, P3. The details of the actual mental process, how the gears work, is not the proper concern of logic, but of psychology or neurology. I'm saying that right?
Neurophysiology. They use the extended term, yeah.
My bad. The proper concern of logic is whether the inference of C on the basis of P1, P2, and P3 is warranted.
So because they never did identify what they mean by C, although they did use the word premise, here premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, the C is the conclusion.
Right.
Okay, and just in case somebody didn't already guess that. So what it's saying here is if you have premises 1 through 3 or 1 through 5 or 1 through 100,
Mm-hmm.
of course, if you listed that many premises, people are going to start to get confused as to what your point is, and it could get cloudy over time. So you want as few premises that will work as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and then the conclusion is that which is supposed to follow from the premises. So if I had premise 1, 2, and 3, and all of them were building an idea, and all of them could be shown to be true, and the conclusion follows from those premises, then we have to accept the conclusion. Because if the premises are true and the conclusion follows, the conclusion will be true.
Now
Does
say
that
it
seem
again.
intuitive to you?
Kind of say it again. You said
Okay.
the premise of like the premise of C, and when you said when you going on to the premise of 1, 2, and 3, do they have
Yeah.
to follow together as one to make it logical sense? Is that what you're saying?
I think an example might come in handy for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give a classic example that you're going to see several times in your life when you're studying this stuff. Okay, I'm just going to give you a standard one.
Okay.
Okay. Premise 1. All men are mortal. Do you agree with premise 1 that all men are mortal?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any argument, any problem whatsoever with that?
So far, no.
Okay. Premise 2. Socrates is a man. Do you have any problem with the statement Socrates is a man?
No, I have no problem.
Okay, those are the only two premises I'm going to give you for
Mm-hmm.
this example. Now, you've stated that both premise 1 and premise 2 are true.
Right.
So if premise 3 follows,
Mm-hmm.
if it necessarily follows from premise 1 and premise 2, then
Mm-hmm.
we have to agree that the conclusion is correct. Here's the standard conclusion.
Okay.
Socrates is a mortal. He
Okay.
is mortal. He's not going to live forever.
Okay.
Do you have any arguments with Socrates is mortal?
No argument.
So you see the topics from the two premises
Mm-hmm.
appear in the conclusion.
Right.
Both the premises are true
Mm-hmm.
because they're building a case toward a conclusion, and the
Okay.
conclusion is true.
I got it. Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That
And
makes
it makes sense in all applications.
Okay.
All trees grow in the ground. An oak is a kind of tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oaks grow in the ground.
Right.
For instance, you can do that with anything.
Okay.
And if your premises are true and the conclusion follows, the conclusion will be true.
Okay. All right. So So this
Okay,
is basic, and this is the basic foundation when making a logical conclusion. Should I start? Would I start here? Would I start at this base to prove a point?
Anything.
Anything.
Any point ever.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So this is applicable in argumentation in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting, actually, the way the human brain works and what we've developed over time for survival. This actually works really well for us, and it actually retrains and reforms the brain and the circuitry in the brain, and will actually make a person literally think clearer.
Oh, okay.
When we study things like this, it literally makes us smarter, which is super interesting, but it actually does. Oh my gosh.
Skywalker 600 say a premise is a proposition based on a person's belief or hypothesis.
I'm sorry. I moved the cursor and I'm trying to find where I was again. And you'll forgive me for like pausing right now and not being able to answer you.
No problem.
Oh, here we go. We were in this area. Smoke. Here we go. Basic concepts. And we were right there and click. Okay. Now, what'd you say?
Skywalker 600 said a premise is a proposition based on a person's belief or hypothesis.
Yes,
Mm,
that's correct. Because the premises can be investigated. Some premises can be false.
mm,
Some premises can be true.
mhm.
And what we're doing, peace and respect, to Kevin and Ivan Van Veen and Skyworks and Harple Blues. We're not that advanced yet, George. You're skipping ahead, man. One step at a time, bro. Um, don't read George's comment or take it seriously because he's just skipped like 3 steps, 4 steps ahead. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
He's just a smart guy who already knows this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I want to do it one step at a time in a building structure,
Right.
so that this is very easy for anyone who's listening to this or might listen to it in the future, and of course in consideration of you as well. All right. So Skyworks 600 wrote, a premise is a proposition based on a person's belief or on their hypotheses. Right. But it could also be something that is standard and known and broadly accepted. Like all men are mortal.
Okay.
Like we all know that. Like we don't have to bicker over that.
Right.
And all men are mortal could be a beginning premise for an entirely different argument than I showed you, and still a good starting premise.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So premises should be stated like I know the ones I gave you didn't include these words, but you should be able to see that these words are indicated. That the first statement was an if it is true, all men are mortal. And then the second one builds on that. And you might begin that with an and statement, right? Because you can see that it's adding on to.
Okay.
And the word and there is and in addition to. In addition to that, or building on that, Socrates is a man.
Okay.
So you can see how it's, and you can have as many premises as you need, but you should keep them as few in number as possible, so it doesn't get overly complex and people get
confused.
Yeah, and Hal Shonick, feel free to jump in if you want to help with this. Hal Shonick is very patient and literate and well versed on this topic, better than me.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Ivan, we'll get into validity and soundness. That's one of the next following topics. One can create all kinds of wacky yet valid syllogisms. Truth isn't the issue when it comes to structure. But validity refers to the form of it, and soundness refers to its relation to the actual application in reality. That was a little bit complicated. Ivan is completely correct. But that was Ivan's already advanced thinking, talking about this. Hillary's emails. The guest right now is Von Erich, who brought this up as a topic, and I just think this sort of thing is so useful and interesting. I mean, interesting because it's useful, that I thought it's definitely worth exploring. So we found a base paper in a PDF form to review. Would Halsonic say better than me? No, Halsonic would not say that Halsonic is better than me. I said it. Get it straight, Halsonic. Nobody thinks you said that. See, that's logic for humor.
Right.
All right. So where are we at here? Yeah, go ahead.
Treats all of these things in terms of single sort of thing. Statements. Logic correspondingly treats interference in terms of collections of statements, which are called arguments. Okay. Which are called arguments. Okay. The word argument has a number of meanings in ordinary English. The definition of argument that is relevant to logic is given as follows. An argument is a collection of statements, one of which is designated as the conclusion, and the remainder of which is designated as the premise. Okay. Wait a minute. Argument is a collection of statements, one of which is okay. Which is okay. Okay. I would like to talk about that too. Note.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and pause whenever you need to.
Okay, so an argument is a collection of statements. Okay,
Uh-huh.
one of which is designated as the conclusion. So, can you give me an example of this being done as a conclusion of argument?
Sure. I'm going to use the same one I gave you already. The conclusion was the final statement which the argument built toward. That is, Socrates must also be mortal.
Okay. Okay.
And the other two statements were premises, building up to the point that you can deduce that Socrates is also mortal.
I got it. Okay, thanks for that. I got it now.
No problem.
Got it. Okay, note that this is not a definition of a good argument. Also note that in the context of ordinary discourse, an argument has an additional trait described as follows. Usually, the premise of an argument are intended to support, justify the conclusion of the argument.
I'll give you an example of that.
Okay.
I'm gonna create some premises that do not support, which means to justify, the conclusion. You ready? So I'm going to alter one of the premises to where it doesn't support the conclusion.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to stay with the first premise. All men are mortal. And where the second premise was Socrates is a man. I'm going to change that to Socrates is a cow.
Oh, okay.
Now we have the conclusion, therefore, Socrates is mortal. Does that support the conclusion if I say that Socrates is a cow?
No, it does it not. I'm trying to.
And why? Why doesn't it support the conclusion?
Because he's a cow, not a man.
Right. And the first statement was that men are mortal, not cows.
Right. Men are mortal. Right.
Okay. So in this case, both the premises were true and the conclusion was true. However, they weren't supportive of the conclusion.
I got you. Because because it started as a man. Right. Okay. I got that. Okay. I see. Now I'm getting as far as now I'm getting okay. I'm catching on there.
This whole thing is designed to be a building process.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Now I see it now. It's coming slowly, but it's coming. I see now. Okay. All right. Now before giving some create examples of arguments, it might be best to clarify a term in the definition. So what does that mean? So when they say argument, it might be best. So was the definition, did you start off as a definition when you said man and mortal? Is that what they mean there?
No, when they say the definition of what an argument is.
Okay.
So this is the definition of an argument. An argument is a collection of statements, one of which is designed as a conclusion, the remainder of which are designated as premises.
Okay.
And they said they're going to give a definition for some of the terms they used there. So before giving some concrete examples of actual arguments, it might be best to clarify a term in the definition, the word statement.
Okay.
Now, a statement is intended to mean a declarative sentence. Okay. Which a declarative statement, a declarative sentence as a statement cannot be certain things. Right? Let me read the rest of this. In addition to declarative sentences, there are also interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory sentences.
Mm.
The sentences that make up an argument are all declarative sentences. That is, they are all statements. The following may be taken as the official definition of a statement. A statement is a declarative sentence, which is to say a sentence that is capable of being true or false.
Okay.
Okay, so could opinions be true or false?
Yes.
Give me an
Okay.
opinion of yours.
Okay. A true or false opinion.
Give me any opinion of yours, and it's something that
uh,
you give me a preference.
My okay. My opinion. That a cat. Okay. My opinion that a cat. All cats doesn't have a heart. I guess
Okay, now that could be true or could be false.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's falsifiable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your opinion whether or not cats have hearts, because your opinion doesn't affect whether or not cats have hearts. Okay. What's your favorite ice cream?
Mint chocolate chip.
It's one of my favorites too, actually. Could I prove true or false that mint chocolate chip ice cream is the best ice cream? Is that falsifiable?
Can you prove it?
Yeah, could I prove it?
To yourself, but maybe I guess not to everybody.
Right. You can't falsify an opinion.
Right. Okay.
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 Also, if I asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a question doesn't have a value of being true or false because it's an interrogation. It's not declaring anything. It's asking about things.
Okay.
So if I say something like, do you like pickles?
Mm-hmm.
That can't be answered with true, false.
Oh, okay. Okay. I got you. Okay.
Also, imperative statements and exclamatory statements are not declarative. They're not declaring a thing. So it has to be specifically declaring a thing.
Okay.
For instance, if I say cats don't have hearts, that's a declaration. It's not an opinion.
Okay.
It's not a question. It's not based on like what I think, and it could be answered with true or false.
Okay.
Does all that make sense so far?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I just got to get my head adjusted. Yeah, that makes sense though. Yeah. I'm trying to get my head so to make sure if I'm ever in a conversation, I'm able to make sure that I'm getting all what you're saying and I'm able to speak correctly.
Okay, would you read the following examples I have up there?
Sure. The following are examples of statements. It is raining. I am hungry. 2 + 2 = 4. God exists. On the other hand, the following are examples of sentences that are not statements. You are hungry. Shut the door, please. And I guess that's a curse word.
I suppose so.
My favorite expletive. Okay. Observe that whereas a statement is capable of being true or false, a question or a command or exclamation is not capable of being true or false.
Okay, so we should never see a question, a command, or an exclamation as a premise because they can't be true or false.
Okay. Okay. So a premise. You said a premise can't be true or false.
A premise has to be true or false.
Okay.
So we should never see these other things as a premise because they can't be falsified.
Okay. And okay. Go wait a minute, go up again. Can you let me see the examples again? I just want to
Sure. Let me bring those back up for you.
Okay. It is okay. I am okay. Other hand, the following. Okay. Are you home? Okay, it's not a statement. Okay, shut the door. All right. Okay. All right, I can see the difference. Okay. I got it now.
All right. Of course, the first set are all declarative sentences that could be falsified. They have a true or false value. So if I replaced 2 plus 2 equals 5, right? Could that be is that a declarative sentence? Does it have a true or false value?
Yeah, it had to because it would be false because it's not. It doesn't equal 4, right?
Right. Right. Or it could be raining outside and I say it is snowing. Right? That's still a declarative sentence.
Right.
It just happens to be false.
Right. It just happens to be false. Right. Even though it comes
cool.
down like it's raining, but it's false
Yeah.
when it's occurring. Right. Okay.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I got that. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Hey,
Observe that whereas a statement is capable of being true or false, a question or a command or an exclamation is not capable of being true or false. Note that in saying that a statement is capable of being true or false, we are not saying that we know for sure which of the two, true or false, that it is. Thus, for a sentence to be a statement, it is not necessary that humankind even knows for sure whether or not it's true or whether it is false. An example of such a statement might be God exists. So it's valid as part of an argument to say God exists. Because it is a declarative statement. Am I saying those words right? Declarative sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All that's good so far?
Yeah.
All right. You want to get the next section there?
Okay. Now, let us get back to interference and arguments. Earlier, we discussed 2 examples of interference.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you on that before your brain develops a habit of saying that word that way. This word is normally said inferences.
Oh, I'm sorry. Inference. I'm sorry.
I just don't want you to develop a bad habit.
Yeah. Inference. My bad. Let us see how these can be represented as arguments. In the case of the smoke, fire, and what's the word?
Inference.
Inference. Okay, I'm sorry. Inference. The corresponding argument is given as follows. There is smoke, therefore there's fire. Oh, we just said it. Premise, and there's fire is conclusion. All right. Here the argument consists of 2 statements. There is smoke and there is fire. The term therefore is not strictly speaking part of the argument. It rather serves to designate the conclusion. There is fire. Setting it off from the premise, there is smoke. In this argument, there is just one premise.
I know it seems a little bit repetitive, but they're trying to be super clear. Is there anything about that that's not clear?
So to start off is the premise is there is smoke.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, it may be a fire most of the time, but in some cases it's not actual fire, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you start off, in a premise. You can start off as a premise, as an example here is there is smoke. And then like you said, as far as the man and mortal. Okay.
Right.
Okay. I got it. and then you build off of that. So if I say there is smoke, I will build either premise one, the premise to making a conclusion that it actually is a fire. Right? Can I do that? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not about there's no strict number of necessary premises. You just include premises as you need them to build a case. I could make some simple one premise, one conclusion that would follow and is true.
Okay.
All human beings I've ever met are on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
As premise one.
As premise one. Okay.
Conclusion: Von Erich is on this earth.
Okay. All right. Therefore, yep. I got it. And okay, let me okay, so in the case of missing person inference, the corresponding argument is given as follows. There were 20 persons originally. Premise. There are 19 persons currently. Premise. Therefore, someone is missing. Conclusion. Ah. Okay. All right. Here, the arguments consist of 3 statements. There were 20 persons originally. There are 19 persons currently, and someone is missing. Once again, therefore sets off the conclusion from the premise. Okay.
And the conclusion is normally last.
Right.
That kind of sets it apart too.
Right. Okay. In principle, any collection of statements can be treated as an argument. Okay. Any collection of statements. Okay. Simple by designating which statement is particular is the conclusion. All right. However, not every collection of statements is intended to be an argument. We accordingly need criteria by which to distinguish arguments from other collections of statements. Yeah, I'm gonna need help with that one.
Okay, I could make a series of statements, and they could even be true. I could even make a conclusion, and it could be true, and it's still not an argument. Okay. I'll give let me see if I can just invent an example of that real quickly. Von Erich is a man. Halsonic Kaiju is a woman. Everyone I've ever met live on the earth. Okay, was there anything wrong with anything I said?
No. So it's not.
But what's the point?
That one was a man, one was one, and we all live on Earth.
Yeah, but what's the point? Is that an argument?
No, it's not an argument. Actually, it's not. It's not an argument.
No, it's all true.
Right, it's all true. So,
but there's no point to it. There's no argument there.
Right, there's no point to. Yeah, there's no way to go to. Yeah.
Like someone actually said that to you and thought it was an argument, you'd just be like, "And I'm waiting for the argument. Go ahead."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And that's your intuition speaking to you, because really you've been using this kind of logic your whole life. You just never formalized it and knew how to express it and knew how to like write it down and formulate it. Even though you've been using this kind of thing because every adult has to, you know? Right.
I got you.
So don't ignore your intuitions in this. When you feel like something is wrong, yeah, go ahead and express that, and we'll work on whether or not it's wrong and why you feel it's wrong. Okay. And that will also help to restructure the brain to get used to this kind of thinking. Okay. In other words, it'll be good for us. Right. I mean, me too. I'm no expert, you know.
Now, where I'm at, there are no hard and fast rules for telling when a collection of statements is intended to be an argument. Okay, okay. But there are few rules of thumb. Often an argument can be identified as such because its conclusion is marked. We have already seen one conclusion marker, the word therefore. Besides, therefore, there are other words that are commonly used to mark conclusions of an argument, including consequently, hence, thus, so, and ergo. Usually, such words indicate that what follows is the conclusion of an argument. All right. So these words are used in the conclusions. Is that what it's basically saying, right?
These can be used in the conclusion to indicate that it is the end of it and it is the conclusion. Like the word consequently means that these things happen, and when those things happen, this thing will happen.
Okay. All right.
So it's as a consequent of the things that preceded it. If I drive too fast in heavy rain with bald tires and slam my brakes, I will consequently, I will hydroplane.
Okay.
Okay. Just for instance,
right.
It necessarily follows that that's going to be happening.
Okay.
Hence means essentially the same thing. So does thus in the modern English, so. And ergo, I think, is Latin, meaning this follows.
Okay.
So all of them basically mean this follows.
Okay.
So it's claiming that the conclusion is correct.
Okay.
Okay, that which doesn't make it correct, but it does identify the conclusion from everything else.
Right.
And it says, "I'm done with my argument. Address it." Okay, so it's kind of to me, it's kind of an invitation to go and criticize a thing.
Right. Right.
Because what we're trying to do is, okay, so this, when people present an argument, right, the fastest, most efficient way, and the way that we should be looking at it is, how quickly and easily can we show this is wrong? Now, this makes people who don't understand that, makes it look like people who are reviewing arguments are being assholes.
Right.
But that's not really the point.
Right.
The point is to disprove it as quickly and easily as possible so that the conversation moves forward and thought moves forward as fast as possible.
Okay.
I
got you. All right. And at that, I will have to work. That takes time to work on, right?
Oh, absolutely. But this whole thing is a very intentional building process. And so long as a person asks the pertinent questions they need to, when they need to, and only they know that. But as long as they're honest with themselves and they're not proudful, and they ask the questions they need to when they need to, they're going to progress through this.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Other times, an argument can be identified as such because its premise are marked. Words that are used for this purpose include for, because, and since. For example, using the word for the smoke fire argument. Earlier can be what's that? Rephrased as follows.
Yes, sir.
All right. Earlier can be rephrased as follows. There is fire. For there is smoke. Oh, okay. For that's like saying equal. Okay, I got it. Note that in AI, the conclusion comes before the premise. Okay. Note that. Okay.
Well, that's an unusual. I haven't seen that form before. I haven't seen it formulated that way before. But it seems like it makes sense what they did there.
Yeah, the conclusion comes before. Okay. Other times, neither the conclusion nor the premise of an argument are marked. So it is harder to tell the collection of statements is intended to be an argument. A general rule of thumb applies in this case as well as in previous cases. I'm kind of confused on this. Other time.
Okay, let me back up a little bit then. All right. So in the example I gave of hydroplaning, right? I hydroplaned for the fact of my bald tires and slamming the brake pedal.
Okay.
Okay. So I made both of my premises into one statement as an and statement. So both things, I'm saying both things are true and were the cause of the hydroplaning. I hydroplaned for having bald tires and slamming my brakes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Other times, did I read that or I need to read that?
You had already read it, but if you'd like to read it again, go ahead.
No, you could go ahead if you want, unless you want me to.
No, I don't. I mean, you have to tell me what you need. I can't know.
Okay. I start right there too. Okay. In an argument, the premise are intended to support, justify the conclusion. Okay. I got there because you just made the example with the ball tires and it was okay. To state things somewhat differently, when a person speaking or writing advances an argument, he or she expresses a statement he or she believes to be true. The conclusion, and he or she cites other statements as a reason for believing that the statement, the premise. Okay. All right. And you did, that was the example. It also was an example with the hydroplane. So I got, all right. Deductive logic versus inductive logic.
Okay, so these are the two major kinds.
Inductive. Okay.
Which means that everything above this should have already made sense to you, or you shouldn't move on, because now we're changing topics and dividing these into two different kinds of things.
Okay.
So you're comfortable, you're not comfortable, you're ready to move on, you want to review.
No, I'll move on because I think I'm pretty comfortable. Okay. Because I think your examples made me comfortable that I understand. So
okay, cool.
I'm ready to move on. All right. Let's go back to the two arguments from the previous section. There is smoke. Okay, now wait a minute. No, I just want to deductive logic versus inductive logic. Okay, I must make sure I said that right.
Okay, so try to think of deductive and inductive as most reasonable answer and necessary answer.
Okay.
A deductive argument has a necessary answer, where an inductive argument has the most reasonable answer, but it can't necessarily be proven.
Okay. But by reasoning of it, it sounds logical. It sounds logical. It's okay.
It's the most likely answer. Yeah.
Most likely answer. Okay.
So when you think of Sherlock Holmes, that's inductive reasoning.
Okay. Inductive. Okay. Give me an example of deductive.
What was that name I had before? Shoot. I am really stuck on a word. It's one I already did. All men are mortal.
Okay.
That's a deductive argument.
That's a deductive. And that's necessary. You're saying necessary.
It necessarily is true. Yeah.
It necessary is true. And one Sherlock Holmes is inductive, but you can make an argument, but it may not be necessarily true, right?
Right.
Okay, because I could make it deductive that the things that he's done, but it may not be necessarily true that he done it. Okay.
Right on.
I got it. Okay. Let us. Okay. Now there is. Okay.
Sorry. I moved my cursor. I'm so sorry. Hold on a second. Let me get back to where we were. Okay. And we have a space cadet. Peace and respect. Welcome, space cadet.
Hey there, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, Von Eric. I think this is the first time I've ever seen you join a stream, Von Eric. Nice to see you in here.
Pretty good. No, I think I was on the stream on William's stream.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I missed it. That's
no,
okay.
you was up there. You was up there.
Was I?
Yeah.
My memory sucks, I guess. So you guys are in the third topic here, which is fine with me. I just I've got the text up in a separate window, and I'm going to forward over to the page that you're on. And what do you think of this text so far?
Oh, you talking about what we speaking about right now?
Yeah, like just, because I've gone through a little bit of this through a different source of info, but this looks like a good text for basic logic, and I was just wondering how you were seeing it so far, Richard, and what's your impression of it?
Yeah, I'm seeing it good. I really, with the examples what Richard has given me gives me a better understanding. But yeah, so far I'm liking it. I'm loving it.
Cool.
Right
on. Yeah, what do you good quality text you found?
Yeah,
I'm happy about this. Yeah, for sure. All right, so continue.
Yeah, the only problem I've had with it so far is it looks at right here, and this is the first problem I've had with it. They listed it in this order: deductive and then inductive. Mm-hmm. And then when they gave the arguments, they gave the inductive first and then the deductive. And I kind of have a problem with that, but it's not a big deal.
You mean the deductive is which one? Do you think? Which one is your?
Oh my gosh, maybe I'm using these terms wrong. I'm thinking about them wrong. There is smoke, therefore there is fire. I believe that's inductive because it's not necessarily so.
There's a missing premise there.
Okay.
There's a missing if-then statement. If there's smoke, then there is fire. There isn't. There's a missing premise. You know what I mean? If it said if there's smoke, then there's fire, then there is smoke would make then therefore there is fire a necessarily follows type of conclusion, right? But because all it says is there is smoke, therefore there is fire, there could be other reasons for the smoke, although smoke is pretty indicative of fire.
Right. But isn't it inductive to say that if there is smoke, then there is fire?
It's a conditional statement. Basically, it's saying if condition 1 is true, then condition 2 is true. I don't know. Okay, so there is smoke. Therefore,
can you go back when you said it's a missing premise, and you said if there is smoke. You used the word if. So
yeah, if we had another premise up here that was before there is smoke, where it said if there's smoke, then there's fire, then the there is smoke would mean more.
Okay.
Because then it's like if we're saying if A is true, then B is true, right? If there's smoke, then there's fire. And then we say if we said if A is true, then B is true, and then we say A is true. Therefore, B is true. Like that's how you would look at that if you were to just kind of strip away the idea of smoke and the idea of fire. We're just looking at if A is true, then B is true. If condition 1 is true, then condition 2 is true.
And when Halsey said A and B, those would be premises A and B.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, right. A represents an idea or an assertion of some kind, and B either a if then or a and, if this is true and this is true, then this is true. Or we've got if this is true or this is true, then this is true. There's different forms, but I'm looking at this A2 here. There were 20 people originally. There are 19 persons currently. Therefore, someone is missing. To me, that's an inductive argument.
Therefore, it assumes that the other person is supposed to be there. Is that why it's inductive?
It does. So what you have to look at here is, does the conclusion necessarily follow? Meaning, like without a doubt, from the premises. That's part of recognizing whether it's inductive or deductive. That's one thing you can do. And then also like
well, what do you think their intent here is, or does this show you that they're not being concise enough?
I mean, you know what? I could be wrong. I could just have an impression that this is inductive and be totally wrong. So if we haven't gotten to that part, okay, here we go. Consider A2 above. If this argument, if the premises are in fact true, then the conclusion is certainly also true. Or to state things in the subjunctive mood, if the premises were true, then the conclusion would certainly also be true. It's deductive. See, I was wrong. See, this is why I like, and this is why I need this too, because sometimes it's pretty confusing, right? Like, does it say A1 is also inductive, or are we going, is this saying, is this showing us deductive first and then going into inductive later? Let's keep going. I don't want to throw a wrench in. Yeah.
So but I want to make sure I'm clear. So is the first one deductive or inductive? Is it, and the second one, is it, which one is deductive and which one is inductive? Or we're going to find out later.
Well, it's always better to have more data before you make a decision, always. So I would like to see that this is consistent within itself and it keeps the same ideas. But because it's not necessarily true that there are some things that will smoke and there is no fire. There's chemical reactions, except not everything's a fire causes smoke.
Right.
So I think that's not necessarily true, where I think that 20 minus 19 does equal 1.
Right. Some 1. You're right. They do say that specifically. Some 1 is missing. On one hand, we know the existence of smoke does not guarantee ensure the existence of fire. It only makes the existence likely or probable. See, isn't that funny? Probability, degrees of probability is what indicates inductive versus deductive.
Yeah.
That's also a thing, you know?
So I was right that they said it in one order and then they gave the examples in the opposite order.
Okay. So the first one would be inductive and the second one would be deductive, right?
Yeah. Because the second one necessarily follows, and the first one is just our best sort of reasonable explanation. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, moving on then.
All right.
There is an important difference between these two inferences, which corresponds to a division of logic into 2 branches. Boy, that's what I said when I saw this. On the one hand, we know that the existence of smoke does not guarantee or ensure the existence of fire. It only makes the existence of fire likely or very probable. Thus, although inferring fire on the basis of smoke is reasonable, it is nevertheless fallible. It can be false, insofar as it is possible for there to be smoke without there being fire. We may be wrong in asserting that there is a fire. Something could be smoldering.
Yeah, that's
Anyone want the next one, please?
To read?
Yes, please.
Sure. The investigation of inferences of this sort is traditionally called inductive logic. Inductive logic investigates the process of drawing probable, likely, plausible, through fallible conclusions from premises. Why my mouth is giving me a hard time today.
Just slow down a little bit.
Another way of stating this, inductive logic investigates arguments in which the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. Inductive logic is a very difficult and intricate subject, partly because the practitioners, experts of this discipline, are not in complete agreement concerning what constitutes correct inductive reasoning. Do you want me to keep going?
I'm confused on this first part.
The investigation of inferences of this sort is traditionally called inductive logic.
And I want to encourage that. I want to encourage that in Von Erich. Please speak up immediately if anything is the least bit not clear.
Okay.
And as long as you're honest with yourself, this is going to be easy.
Okay.
No time like the present, right?
Right.
And also, I said previously in another stream, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's important, that we can think of things as when we have something wrong as wrong, or we can think of it as needs an update. And so, like, if you ever find yourself berating yourself in some small way internally that you were wrong about something, just reframe that to, an update. Awesome. I'm going to update my information, because then there's no wrong there. It's just an opportunity to get better information in place.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely speak up always. Should I reread it?
Please, if you can. Yeah, please.
The investigation of inferences of this sort is traditionally called inductive logic. Inductive logic investigates the process of drawing probable or likely or plausible through fallible conclusions from premises. Another way of stating this, inductive logic investigates arguments in which the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion, as opposed to deductive logic, where the truth of the premises makes necessary or not necessary the conclusion. It's with deductive, you're looking at that necessity, and if that necessity is not there, the argument is kind of null at that point in a way.
Okay.
I'm going to construct a quick example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you want to ask her to marry you? So maybe you're a young man, and your dad is saying, what's going on here? You know, are you really sure you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So you make an argument to your dad. Well, Dad, premise one, she always feels completely comfortable scratching my back where I can't reach in that one itchy spot.
Mm-hmm.
And she every other time we go out, she goes to the restaurant that I like. She doesn't have to have the restaurant that she likes every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So I conclude she loves me.
Okay.
You see, now none of that can be proven.
Right.
And you could add as many premises as you want to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the sort of inductive reasoning we use to make those kinds of decisions all the time.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
But that conclusion didn't necessarily follow.
Right.
If you said that she can scratch your back, therefore she must have fingernails.
Okay.
That would be
that would without a lot of exception be a necessarily follow type of situation.
Okay.
All right. So
she feels free to scratch my back when I have that itch, thereby that limb on her body is not paralyzed. There you go.
Okay.
Another way of stating this, inductive logic investigates arguments in which the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. Okay, I did read that already. Inductive logic is a very difficult and intricate subject, partly because the practitioners of this discipline are not in complete agreement concerning what constitutes correct inductive reasoning. But you know what, personally, it's nice that they mention that, but I wouldn't worry about that too much at this point. Let the experts be in disagreement with each other. All that matters is how it hits you and how you end up storing it and using it.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So do you want me to continue, or you want to continue?
Yeah, you can. Okay.
How far do you want me to read? To the next section, number 4?
Yeah, let's see if it continues easily until the next section.
Okay. Inductive logic is not the subject of this book. Ooh, book. That makes me happy. 26 pages of book. If you want to learn about inductive logic, it is probably best to take a course on probability and statistics. Inductive reasoning is also called statistical or probabilistic reasoning and forms the basis of experimental science. Inductive reasoning is important to science, but so is deductive reasoning, which is the subject of this book. Consider argument A2 above. In this argument, if the premises are in fact true, then the conclusion is certainly also true. to state things in the subjunctive mood. If the premises were true, then the conclusion would certainly also be true.
And we're going to talk about that little statement right there.
Okay.
But
I'm
going to scan back up. I'm going to scan back up to what they were referring to, A2 there.
The 20 people one.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me see. What did they say about? Okay, they don't really go on to do they? Okay, they do say more. Still another way of stating things: the truth of the premises necessitates the truth of the conclusion.
Mhm.
The investigation of these sorts of arguments is called deductive logic. The following should be noted. Suppose that you have an argument, meaning a collection of statements, right? Not a fight. And suppose that the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusion. Then it follows logically that the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. Let's read that one more time. Suppose that you have an argument, and suppose the truth of the premises necessitates/guarantees the truth of the conclusion. Then it follows that the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. In other words, the argument is judged to be deductively correct. Then it is also judged to be inductively correct as well. So what I think that's referring to, Richard, and they might say this later on, is that when we say deductively correct, we mean valid. And when we mean inductively correct, we mean sound.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, sound. When you say sound, I'm confused.
Let's go over that.
Yeah, we can pop into that real quick because that'll come up soon enough, I think. So we can have here. Let me see if I can pull up this silly little page I've been collecting. I've been collecting arguments on for examples.
Okay, just share screen and we'll bring that up for you.
Yeah. Where is it? Is it here?
She's not really asking you, Von Erich. She's just talking to herself.
I do that a lot.
It's okay. I'm just we're talking about logic, and I'm just going to be super literal right now.
Let me see. Did that have that first one? No. There we go. Okay. So I think I've got a couple here. My cat says hello.
Hey,
hello, cat.
Okay.
Poor Peter W. He says he's feeling a little bit subjunctive right now. That's rough, man.
I'm gonna have to look that up because even though we said that word earlier, I did not. I'm rusty on its meaning. So, relating to or denoting a mood of verbs expressing what is imagined or wished or possible. That's interesting.
So he's feeling a little bit feeling right now.
He's wishing for something that could be, but not sure what that thing is.
or otherwise identified as sarcastic.
Okay, so I've got the thingy up if you want to share it.
Okay, great.
All right, so you guys went over this first one, I think, right? Before.
Yeah.
All men are mortal. Plato's man, therefore Plato is mortal. And the way I always see these things in a visual form, and it may not be that I can always do this with these kinds of arguments, but when I look at this, what I imagine is all men are mortal means that men, the category of men represented, let's say, by a circle, is completely inside the larger circle of mortal, right? All men
do some
Venn
diagrams.
Sure. I think I had like a little make a free Venn diagram thingy up before. Let's see. And how about a border?
I really like that one, George. That's a good inductive argument. Every time the wind feels like this, it rains. I think it's going to rain.
Well, yeah, I guess the feeling wind like this indicates that he's feeling it right at that moment. So we don't
Right.
need to say, I feel this wind or the wind is here or whatever. Okay, so let's see. So we've got a nice circle. Here, let me throw up this little thingy I've got here. There we go. Okay, I haven't used this before. Just fair warning.
It might be a little clumsy at first.
Text. Add a text box. Okay. So I'm going to make a text box that just says.
And you're going to do Socrates?
Sure. All men are, what was it? Mortal?
All men are mortal, yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to use, I guess we can just put men. Whoops. I guess I could put it there. All right. Let's see. Oh, I can just write anywhere? I didn't know that. I thought I had to make some kind of text box or something. Or maybe I do still. I guess I do. Hold on. Sorry about all this crap here. I'm not like I said, I'm not really familiar with this program. Oh yeah, here we go. So can I move this? Can I move this around, or do I move this around? Okay, there we go. So we could have men, or no, mortal, right? Mortal is the bigger category. All men are mortal. So we have mortal here. We have. So annoying that it like doesn't default back to my last style of whatever. So, and now we've got men. Right? So men is completely inside of mortal if all men are mortal, right?
Oh, okay.
Plato is a man. Here, we can just copy and paste this and make it littler.
There, that's an easy way around it.
Yeah, right. And then make a Plato thingy here. Okay, so if all men are mortal, right? They're completely contained within the category of mortal. Mm-hmm. And Plato is a man. So he's completely within the category of men. Then he's by default in the category of mortal. There's no way that he can't. It's absolutely necessary that he is in this sphere.
Right.
Plato is here. Now, if there are other situations where this circle would be more like this, where we have some uncertainty, right? And so to say all for this could not be true because of that uncertainty. We don't know if it's all or some in those cases.
Can you give an example of an uncertainty within this case? An uncertainty.
Yeah. Actually, we've got one. Let me see if I can pull up. There was another one that I had handy.
We need to depend on you doing less screen sharing. I could present some things.
Oh, because of it's a pain in the butt, or
no, just as long as you link it to, just so you're not switching back and forth between screens so much.
It's no big deal as long as I can find stuff. Not being able to find stuff is the big frustration in my book. Okay, so
how about this? How about if we say that we think this is important and it's worth the amount of time that it takes, no matter what time it takes? Does that help?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great, because I just don't want people to be like,
don't be rushed.
Watch, like being like, okay, come on, Okay, so it's up if you want to share it. Hello, honey. Okay, so this is from this is an old argument from one of the first books on logic. And you can substitute this word with liberty if you want instead of liberality, but basically every covetous man violates, I'm just going to paraphrase it here, violates the laws of liberty. But every prodigal man, you could say also, right? But we're just going to say violates the laws of liberty. Therefore, every prodigal man is a covetous man. Do you feel right away that there's something wrong with that? with this
Every
conclusion.
covetous man does violate the laws of liberty.
Yeah, it's like an old form of liberality, or liberal. I guess probably maybe an earlier form of liberal instead of liberty. Hello, honey.
What does it mean, covetous? What's that mean?
Like someone who covets,
Basically, jealousy.
jealousy. Someone who they want what they don't have, other people have.
Okay.
Coveting is considered sinful.
Okay, so every covetous takes away liberty. Okay, all right. And what's the other one?
Prodigal, like that's prodigies, like a genius or someone who is yeah. Is that right, Richard? Am I using that right? Prodigal.
I can't read that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me blow this up a little bit more.
If you could. Oh, that's better.
Okay.
Every covetous man doth violate the laws of liberty.
Prodigal,
but every
spending money or
prodigal
resources
man
freely and
doth
recklessly.
violate the laws of liberality.
Okay, I was wrong about prodigal. Okay.
What's prodigal? What's the meaning of prodigal?
According to my little lookup tool here, it says spending money recklessly. I'm sorry. Adjective: spending money or resources freely and recklessly, wastefully, extravagant. And then there's also wasteful. Okay, yeah, never mind. Those are just synonyms.
So that's like the prodigal son.
Right.
Yeah, I never actually. You know what? This is so embarrassing, but I only had an impression of that word before, just because of how it was used, but I never actually.
Interesting.
I know. So what about this conclusion? What do you think? Given these premises, how does that hit you?
As far as the meaning, what you said, I guess it would.
Well, hold on though. Okay, you can take the meanings and any attachments that you have to the meanings into consideration, but you could also kind of strip it down a little bit, because what they're saying here is every, which means all, right? All, and also every here.
Right.
So we've got all, right? All C, covetous men, are violators, right, of liberty. All P, prodigal men, are violators of liberty. So we've got these two things that are in this V category, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got this conclusion: all P, all prodigal men, are covetous men. Okay. So if we want to look at it visually over here, this is not a complete picture of this situation, but this is all we can assume from the premises.
Right.
So what we've got is here, hold on a second. What we've got is all C are V, right? C is completely inside of V.
Right.
All P are V, same story.
Right.
But if we say all P are C, it's problematic, because that implies that P has to be inside of C, and the premises don't give us that.
Oh.
So we can't, this does not necessarily follow. It could be true, right?
It could be, even though it's
could be true. But see, like what I said here, we don't know the relationship between P and C. All we know, I had this another thing before, is that they are both all V.
V's,
right?
Right.
V could contain other things.
Right.
V could P's. Okay, so all P are then it doesn't say exclusively, right? Like all P are V, but we don't know that P could also be concurrently something else. Like there's a lot that we don't know here, but this is all we have for the premises. So we have to decide, does this necessarily follow?
Right.
And it has to be no, right?
Right. Because it's other premises that needs to be done to actually make that.
We would need something that said more about the relationship between P and C. Yeah.
I'm getting it slowly but surely. I'm getting it.
It's one of those things.
You ain't going that slow, man. Don't be ashamed.
Yeah, no, any speed is good, really. And it is kind of amazing, because I saw it in real time happening, where people kind of were like, I wouldn't say stumped, but just kind of like the information was new. So they're kind of like rolling into it like with a little bit of like, not, I wouldn't say hesitation, but just like what am I looking at? What is the nature of this? And as soon as it like clicked, it just clicked. I could almost hear it clicking in people's minds as we were going along, and it was amazing. And I think I really haven't heard or seen people talk too much about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's just like it's really important because it's great for our reasoning skills since we have to do so much of it in the world. And anyway, so here's another like silly little thing I did here. So I made a dialogue of my, since the argument is not valid, it follows that it is also not sound.
Mm-hmm.
So not valid. If not valid, right, then there's a little symbol for then, not sound, right? It's not valid, therefore it's not sound. This is just like the smoke and fire situation, right? If there's smoke, then there's fire, right? Although the letters don't work. Right. There's smoke, therefore there's fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same argument, pretty much.
Right.
So.
And it's not enough premise there to validate that. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. And even though this might not be a true picture of what the reality of the situation is, this is all we've got. It is a representation of what we have so far.
Right. Now, could you build on the premise to make it
okay, so here's you could change something. You could say hold on, if we have all P or V, we could also say wait, hold on. Oh, I guess this because it's underlined. We say some CRP, right?
All right. Okay.
So, but that would have to be the conclusion. We have to, let's see, all CRV, got it. All PRV, some CRP. What would the conclusion be? Or is that the conclusion? Like, how do we do this, Richard?
Well, ignoring that we'd have to change the statement above this.
All CRV, that qualifies. All PRV. Right now, these two statements don't have anything to do with them touching or not touching.
Right.
Am I right about that? So if we say this, that means that we do this, right?
No, it just means that's false. It just means the conclusion is false because you can't say that conclusion. You don't know that. It's no better than all. Some is no better than all.
This isn't a conclusion yet. This is right here. I'm trying to construct a conclusion if this is a premise.
You want another premise right there. Okay, sorry. I kind of lost track of where you were. I apologize.
That's okay. So if I move this over so that I say some CRP.
Right. That's fine.
That works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the conclusion, I'm not sure what a good conclusion with this.
Some PRC.
That's a premise and a conclusion?
No, the premise was some CRP. The conclusion would be some PRC.
Okay, do you think that's circular or no? No, because it doesn't. No, you're right. It's not circular. I mean, you didn't say that, but I don't think it is. Because it's not.
You're right. You're right. I never said that. I never agreed, but you're right. I wanted to agree.
It doesn't necessarily mean that all B are A, right?
Right.
So it's actually false that we might. I mean, yes, we can say some PRC, but we just can't say what they all are, except for V.
Right.
Okay.
Right. On this Venn diagram, yeah. And
right,
to really significantly change it, we'd have to go back up to the statement and change some stuff up there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just for the sake of having.
I mean, we'd have to go back to the argument and change things within the argument.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to make a new spot for this modification. Maybe just copy everything. But I don't have to do it now. I think. Do you want to get back to the material? Was this enough?
Yeah,
of an
Vaughn was
assumption?
asking for a very specific example, and you gave it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll stop sharing. You can share the other thing.
I'm wanting a cigarette, so if you wanted to share the other thing, since you already have it up,
Do you want to
CO1 PDF.
Okay. Do you? Oh yeah. Do you want to pause or anything?
No, I want you guys to continue. I just want a cigarette. I don't want to stop Vaughn.
Have you gone through this already yourself?
Have I gone through it already? No.
Because I could go to that, like there's that, remember that little quiz where it's like just talking about validity and soundness, and that's it, and it's like 6 questions.
Yeah, I think it would be great to review that.
Why don't I just pull that up, and then we'll just pause this so that we don't.
I think there's a really good time for someone's brain where he is right now to hear that. I think it'd be great.
All right, cool. Because it's like a little quick review and new material to review as well. So let me see if I can find it real quick. I think I have it somewhere. Do you hear that crazy stuff that's going on in my background over here?
Yeah, I hear something.
I think there's like a movie in the other room or something. It's kind of loud. Sorry about that. Okay, so I know it's here somewhere. Arguments. There we go. I think that's it. Okay, that's one thing. There's something else too. My God.
It sounds like a scary movie or something.
Right? Someone's getting murdered in the other room. Okay, I know it's here in one of these, is that it? No. It's, oh, you know what? It's under quizzes, I think. Sorry, guys.
Oh man, it's a test get ready to come up. Oh man, I know. Oh, my goodness.
There's so much material on this site. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Oh wow.
Logic homepage, is that it? Practice quizzes. There we go. Okay. That's it. Okay. Let me put this up on the screen. Sorry that took a while.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, and let me turn off this crazy music in my background too that I didn't even realize was going until just now. Okay. Okay, so again, why don't you just read through that first one and tell me your first your impression of your answer, and then we can go forward.
Number 1, when it says a sound argument is valid deductive argument with true premises.
Mm-hmm.
A sound argument is a valid deductive argument. That's true.
Yeah, you're right. So I'll read you what it says and then maybe elaborate. It says, yes, statement 1 is true because it's the definition of a sound argument.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if it's valid, which means if the conclusion necessarily follows, that kind of qualifies it for whether or not it can be sound.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not valid, it's automatically not sound. It's just not even eligible to be looked at for soundness.
All
right. A deductive argument.
The reason why I got that is because that chart you just put up, that helped me a lot right there. So, and that examples.
Oh yeah. No, it's one of those things. It's like I said, I think it's already clicking for you, but it is kind of like there's this cumulative effect in this little threshold that seems to be, and for some people, like I saw someone pick it up after very minimal exposure, as far as I know, and just be like, well, I think Richard is gone, but I'm talking about William. Like, you know William, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just like amazed at how intuitively he picked this up with very little. He only had a little exposure to us doing it a couple of days ago, but just I think his just natural ability to reason has already been sort of, I don't know, he's been thinking about stuff in certain ways for a while, and I think his brain is just kind of like wired for it because he just picked it up incredibly fast, like within minutes, I would say. It was kind of crazy to watch, but anyway, fastest I've ever seen. A deductive argument cannot be both valid and unsound.
I would say that that's true because I would look at that as inductive, right?
No, this is all about deductive. These are all about this is just so you know, this quiz is called Truth, Validity, and Soundness. Yeah, this is all focusing on that. So
I would say true on that. A deductive?
Okay. Yeah, deductive is what we're dealing with like the premises, where we're looking at the premises and saying, does the here's the thing: deductive arguments always will have a conclusion that necessarily follows, and inductive arguments have conclusions that have like degrees of probability.
That's why I said this was true, because it will fit with inductive, right?
Well, but let's not try to fit it with inductive just yet, because we're just looking at it as deductive like consideration. Yeah. So, but what does it take? What is this? What is this in the picture of validity and soundness? Like, what does that mean? When something is valid,
that means it's necessarily true.
It means that the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises, no matter if the premises are true or not. Like, for instance, there's a in on another page that you can't see right now because I'm not sharing it because Richard is not here. There is an argument that says now we have to assume that for just looking at the form alone, meaning like that whether or not the conclusion follows, we have to not judge immediately whether or not the premises are crazy or obviously untrue or any of that. All we're looking at is form. So if we say, if all planets are made of cheese and the moon is a planet, if those two things are true, then the moon is made of cheese.
Okay.
Right? That, even though it's not a good argument, the conclusion necessarily follows, because if all planets are made of cheese, if that's true, and the moon is a planet, then the moon is made of cheese.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Yes.
So this is a valid argument, right? Because the structure is good, and that means that the conclusion necessarily follows. But it's not sound because the premises contain false information.
Okay.
But it's valid in structure.
Because it's structure, but it's not actually valid.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, and that's what they meant, I think, when we were talking. They said that here. Let me see how it's mentioned in the text.
And that's what I got. That's what I have to get to understand. It can be valid, like you said, in structure, but not necessarily true.
Right.
But it can be okay. Just because I structure it well, that doesn't mean actually true. But I can construct it. I can say something that's necessary true, and construct it to be okay. I got it. And construct it that makes it necessary true. Could you make something that is necessary true, structure it that it can be unnecessary?
We'll put it this way. Okay, so let's say that every argument is going to go through a machine that has two stages. The first stage tests for validity, which is that thing where the conclusion absolutely follows, and there's no uncertainty about that, and it doesn't matter what the premises contain. All that matters is that they contain evidence that the conclusion necessarily follows from what they give us, right? But then let's say, so it passes that test. Then we move it over to the other column for soundness, which is where we look at, is the information good? Is the information correct?
Correct.
Is it true information?
Mhm.
Because it could be bullshit, like the cheese thing, right?
Mhm.
Let me see if there's another example that I have here that's like another. Let's see. So yeah, so really, I mean, I know it's a boring example, but the all men are mortal thing.
Yeah, that's a good one right there.
Classic
I see.
example.
I see it. But even though what determines? Okay, I see it now. Okay, because all men do we can see. All men are mortal. Okay, I got it.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, the category of men, they're all mortal.
Okay.
Plato is in that category of men.
Right.
Therefore, Plato is in the category of mortal.
Mortal. I got it. Okay.
Yep.
I got it now. I was confused when it was the construction of making an argument that could be true the way you put it together, but with equal the conclusion, but it may not be necessary. Like when you did the cheese argument. Okay, I got it now. I didn't get that all the way, but now I got it now.
And just FYI, like there can be an argument that is like, we remember how we had that argument, Richard, where all the premises and the conclusion were true, but it was still not valid because the conclusion just didn't follow. It may have had true information in it, but it did not follow the premises, which is one of, kind of the requirements of validity. It is the big requirement. And yeah, so, but I don't have that. Oh, here it is. All men are mortal. Plato is a man. Therefore, cows don't eat 20-pound steel balls. So all men are mortal is true. Plato is a man is true. And cows don't eat 20-pound steel balls. It's ridiculous.
What's the conclusion? Okay, so what was the conclusion, though?
The conclusion is, therefore, cows don't eat 20-pound steel balls.
Oh, okay.
It's still true, but it has nothing to do with the premises, right?
Okay.
And so, and even like we could have premises that are also sort of, not having a relationship to each other. We could have other premises that don't relate, and it's just a bad argument. Like when you look at that, you just say, yeah, it's invalid and it's also unsound, even though everything in it is true.
Right.
So that's it. It's not an example that'll come up very often, but it is one that exists. So here, I'll stop sharing this.
So when you have someone presenting to you an argument where all the statements are true, and say the first two premises are building an argument, but then the conclusion doesn't follow, that's called a non sequitur.
Yeah. Or if it makes a jump that just is not provided by the premises, that's also a thing.
Right.
Yeah. Non sequitur is when it could be like it's turning in another direction, or it's unrelated, or it's.
I can give an example of that. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is highly intelligent.
Okay.
Right. We have to assume that we make an assumption. We have an assumption that's not there. It's not in the premises. Right. But he is highly intelligent. So yeah. And that's a good non sequitur. Okay, so I'll go back to your thing.
Was that all valid arguments? That question, is that true? Right? All valid. Deductive that question right
there. Yeah, let's go back to it for a second, I guess.
Let me show you a cheat, Space Cadet. Take the everything that you want to share and paste it into all the same one, and then you can just go forward and back using your arrow buttons. You don't have to go to different screens.
You mean like tabs, or?
Yeah, take each address of the tab of each tab and paste it into the same one,
like in the same window, right?
Yeah, go ahead and share any one that you want. It doesn't matter.
Okay, let me see. I'll just go in as a share window instead of share tab, and it is let's It's not showing me the thing.
No, go into Share tab.
Oh wait, hold on. See, because this way, I think I can share anything in this. Yeah. Okay, and I've got the PDF here too. So a deductive argument cannot be both valid and unsound. That's actually false because it definitely can be valid.
No, I was talking about the third one. The third one.
unsound.
All valid deductive arguments are sound arguments. All valid deductive arguments are sound arguments.
Consider the one right before it.
True, right? Would that be valid? Because you pointed out valid last time.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's think about it visually for a second. A deductive argument cannot be both valid and unsound.
Okay.
So, well, actually, I don't think we need to do this one visually. So in order to be sound, an argument has to be valid. But just because it's valid, that doesn't automatically mean it's sound. It could be unsound.
Okay.
Remember, the validity is just meaning it passes sort of the first test for structure. The second test is to look at the information to see if it's true, and that is where we establish whether or not it's sound.
See, that's what I gotta keep in my head when you say structure. The premise can be the way it's structured, but that doesn't mean is. See, that's what I gotta keep in my head. That's why that's what loses me when you say structured, and that made like the cheese argument with the earth. The way
Don't feel bad. This gets everybody.
Yeah, that's what I got to
at
get
first.
Right. Yeah, that's what I got to get used to. I can. So if someone structures something, yes, it can be true the way you structure it. The structure is true, but that doesn't mean it's actually the conclusion of it. Okay. That's what I got to keep in my head, and I keep forgetting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like I said, like it'll all sort of start clicking and falling into kind of like Tetris, you know?
Yeah.
So all valid arguments or sound arguments is definitely false. I'm trying to think of something that we could follow this up with that would make like a complete argument. But I'm not sure if we really need to. So a deductive argument, let's do the inverse, and that's always helpful sometimes to do. Did you just hear what I said? That's always helpful sometimes. Wow. Okay. A deductive argument can be both invalid and sound. That's the inverse of that. A deductive argument can, instead of cannot, be both invalid instead of valid and sound instead of unsound.
Okay.
So let's because that to me sometimes it works to do an inverse of it, to look at it a different way, and sometimes it doesn't. But a deductive. Wait, actually, I'll just change it. Deductive argument can be both invalid and sound. Is that true?
Yeah, because the structure of the argument can be.
It has to be what to be what.
It has to be what the structure the argument can be valid. It has to be valid and
to be sound.
Oh, it has to be valid to be sound.
Right.
All right. Now,
if an argument is valid, that doesn't mean it's automatically sound. It just means that it could be, right? It passes the first test. If something is invalid, there's no way it can be sound.
There's no way.
Automatically.
Okay, so if I structured my premises in an invalid way, there's no way it can be sound. Right?
Correct. So here's the first thing it said, right? A deductive argument cannot be both valid and unsound.
Okay.
Here's the inverse, which is also true. A deductive argument can, or I mean, not true, but it represents the same thing, can be both invalid and sound. These two things can't be the case, right? So they're both false, right?
Right. Okay. I said.
Yeah.
But what cannot be both? Okay. Okay.
So here we are. We're false. Statement 2 is false because a valid deductive argument might have false premises. And we have this all valid deductive arguments are sound arguments. Again, just because it's valid doesn't mean it's sound. So we can't say all. We could say some.
Some. Okay.
Some, right? So this is false.
Right.
Yes, statement 3 is false because some valid arguments have false premises. Okay. I'll go back to the thing if you want me to have it here. Let's see here.
See, when I said when I was thinking all, I was thinking all arguments that came together as a valid. That's what I was thinking. That's why I said the other one, but I see the now the all.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about like let's see. All valid arguments are sound arguments.
All valid.
I'm trying to think about it visually, but basically it would be like a circle with another circle, sort of, with an indeterminate part in and part out, right? And that would be valid arguments. And then the other circle would be, or it would be probably like the, valid arguments would be the smaller circle with half in and half out. And then the other circle would be sound arguments. Some of them inside, some of them outside.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse you, but throwing all these weird like visualizations in there. You want to go back to the text, Richard?
Whatever Vaughn wants.
What is Vaughn want?
Let's go with these questions so I can get it.
Okay, let's go through the rest of them because they're pretty good. I
don't like quizzes, but I think these quizzes is helping me a little bit. Okay.
So like solidify it. Okay.
Yeah.
A deductive argument can either be valid or invalid and still have true premises.
Okay. Which one is that? Let me see. Oh, a deductive argument.
Number 4.
Okay. A deductive argument can be either valid or invalid and still have true premises. I would say true. That false?
Yeah, I believe it's true also.
Okay.
True,
okay. Can we go into that though? Because can we go into the example? Because even though I guess right, I still want to make sure it's computing in my head.
A deductive argument can either be valid or invalid with. Okay, hold on. Let's go into.
Okay, so you already have one. You already have one example in Socrates,
right?
Where it's both valid and sound, right?
Okay.
Where the premises are true and the conclusion is true, and the conclusion necessarily follows. Okay. Let me give you an example of where that doesn't that wouldn't work.
Okay.
Where the how do I say that? Go back to the yellow screen, the tan yellow screen. Okay, let me look at that question or that statement. A deductive argument can be either valid or invalid and still have true premises. So my goal here is to give you an invalid argument that has true premises. Mm-hmm. This is the same as the one with the cow one. That's an example of this. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, cows don't eat 20-pound steel balls.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's invalid. But the premises
that's invalid. That's invalid conclusion, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's invalid. It's an invalid argument because the conclusion does not follow.
Does not fit with that. Okay.
Yeah. So so we look at the first test is for validity, which means does the conclusion follow? Right. That's all we're looking for.
Okay.
From the premises, right? Like do the premises give us what we need to say it necessarily follows. And if it's yes, that means it's valid. Then we look at, is it bullshit? Is it true? What's going on here? And then we could say, okay, it's valid, but it's not sound because something in it is false, or it's valid and it's sound because everything in it is true. And, you know, we already know that the conclusion follows, right?
Right.
But we don't have to like really justify the conclusion following the premises because we've already established that.
Okay.
With the validity.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're
Like
looking at
the moon planet and planets made of cheese.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It made sense within itself.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Right.
Right.
But it's not true.
But it's not true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But the structure, like the structure of the argument, the premise that you put together, that is okay. That can be true. But okay.
And I want to answer to Stephanie Helms. Peace and respect, Stephanie. It's because your glasses are on top of your head instead of on the bridge of your nose. That's why everything's looking. Try the glasses in front of your eyes. That works better.
Yeah. So, you know, there's this thing that we do when we're looking at the argument where we don't automatically say, I'm not going to give this argument any attention because the information is obviously weird or false or whatever.
Right.
Like, let's not let ourselves trip over that and stop at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We do it to look at how this reasoning is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, like if it's not a good argument, it's not a good argument, but we're just looking at like that first step. Does this follow from this? And it doesn't matter if this is just some fantasy. The planets are made of cheese, you know? All right. So
make it unsound, which make it unsound, not
yes, valid, but unsound. Right. Valid meaning because this absolutely does follow, but unsound because this is
right.
These are false, right? Even though this follows, these are false.
Okay.
So
I got it. I just gotta keep it in my head.
It'll keep returning. It'll keep returning. When the conclusion of a deductive argument is true, the argument must be sound.
The conclusion of the deductive argument is true, the argument must be sound. I would say true.
All right, you could say that. You could say true. However,
they use the word must here.
Must, yes,
must.
What does it mean to be sound again?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be sound? It means that we must be valid, right?
Right.
What does it mean to be valid? It means that the conclusion must absolutely follow. It doesn't matter, like right now, like, yes, sure, it could be true, but we're not looking for truth at this moment. We're looking at whether or not the conclusion follows because we don't know if it's valid or not, right? The conclusion could be true without it being valid.
Right.
So the saying that it must be sound
just
because the conclusion is true is not accurate. That's not going to work.
Right. I didn't pay attention to that must be sound. Okay.
Yeah, these little, it's certain language, you know, all, none, some, must, you know, there's these little clues that make it, you know, these are in an absolute category or a squishy category, meaning it's not absolute. Okay, so when the conclusion of a deductive argument is true, the argument must be sound. That is false.
Right, false. Could now if it said the argument can be sound or may be sound, would it be true then? If we take the word must out?
When the conclusion of a deductive argument is true, the argument, I mean, we could say may be sound, but that really doesn't tell us anything.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, you know what I'm saying? Because, yeah.
Okay.
So it says must be, it's false. It says good, statement 5 is false since nothing is said about the truth of the premises or the validity of the argument.
Okay.
We only know that the conclusion is true. We don't know that it absolutely follows.
Okay.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So when the premises of a deductive argument, oh, hi, Midnight.
Hello.
When the premises of a deductive argument are true, the conclusion is always true as well.
That foul. That about to say false. That sounds like the one before that.
It's
Let's
just
see,
that your brain is starting to put stuff together here. Yes, this is false.
when the premises of a deductive argument are true, the conclusion is always true as well.
This is like
Always.
ignoring that non sequiturs could exist.
Always is a clue there. So I would say this is false. Yeah, you're right, because it could be a false conclusion with true premises easily.
Yeah.
So false. The conclusion would not always be true unless the argument were valid. So statement 6 is indeed false. If a deductive argument is sound, then the conclusion must be true. Let's think about what it takes to be sound.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take to be sound?
Was it a valid premise?
The whole argument would be called valid if. What's the condition for being valid again? Do you remember?
The
conclusion must follow from the premise.
Follow the valid premises. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not called the premises valid. The whole argument is either valid or invalid.
Okay.
Yeah. So if a deductive argument is sound, which means it would be valid, right? Because if we're calling something sound, it's automatically in the category of valid because it had to be valid in order to be sound.
Okay.
Okay. So if a deductive argument is sound, then the conclusion must be true.
Let's see that there you go. That must again. I don't want to make that.
I know it's a little tricky, right? So let's think about it, though. Let's think about it.
Wait a
If we're
minute.
calling something sound, that means that we are calling it not only is it valid because the conclusion follows, but it's sound, meaning that the premises are true.
Are true. Okay. I would say that's a true. Then.
Yes.
That's true.
I would say that too. Anyone else? Anyone else want to?
You should be a teacher.
I'm being a
She
teacher.
is. That's what she's doing.
No, I mean you should be an actual teacher, like being paid and everything.
I might
wouldn't be
consider
bad.
that. My husband said the same thing because he's seen me enjoying this lately. So, yes, statement 7 is true, and its truth follows from the definition of a sound argument. We always have to remember, what does it take? What are the conditions to be valid? What are the conditions to be sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A deductive argument could have a false premise and still be sound.
What you said? What are? Wait a minute. You said what are?
What are the conditions? Here, let's go for here.
Condition. So how do we? That's what condition. So that's where I get confused.
Hold on.
Determination.
I don't know why I always have to do this. So the conditions for validity. If conclusion necessarily follows premises, then the argument. Oops.
Okay, to answer to Harple Blues, yes, that tan-colored screen is interactive, and Halsey, or Space Cadet, has been reading what pops up only on their screen, which we do not see.
Yeah, I think I would be able to. You'd be able to see it if I was sharing my whole desktop, but not when I'm sharing a window or a tab.
It's good enough that you read them.
So if a conclusion necessarily follows the premises, then the argument is valid. If an argument is valid, if an argument actually is let's see, how do we do this? I could do it like as a chain, I guess. If an argument is valid, Um, oops. Argument. Okay. So this is can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a must be, because just because it's valid doesn't mean it's sound.
Right. Okay.
This means it's valid if the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises, I should say. If an argument is sound, it's already met the conditions for validity. It can't be both invalid and unsound, so it must be valid.
Okay.
Okay. So just keep these things in mind as we can pop back to wherever if you want to look at that again. But
No problem.
so if a deductive argument is sound, then the conclusion must be true. I would say that's true.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, yeah. Statement 7 is not false because it is the definition of a sound argument. Okay, a deductive argument could have a false premise and still be sound.
Is that the one that you did with the cheese?
Well, that one was valid but unsound because it was
okay.
The conclusion was good from the premises, but the information was not true. So I think this is false because I think that the premises are required to be true in a sound argument.
A deductive argument could have a false premises and still be okay. Yeah.
What do you think, Richard? Do you think it's false or true?
I found some sharp cheddar cheese.
A deductive argument could be false premises and still be sound.
Now I understand sound is the final test.
Right.
And if something is sound, then all of it's good. Thumbs up.
Right. So I don't think that it can have a false premise.
So you can't have a false premise in a sound argument.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah.
So we'll go for false here. Good. It says, patting us on the head. Statement 8 is false by the definition of a sound argument. A sound argument is valid and has all true premises in it. I wish we could, I should make little screenshots of these little pop-ups. In a valid deductive argument, the conclusion could be true or false. Remember, what does it take to be
speaking
valid?
To validity.
Yep.
Oh, it's just speaking to valid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But, okay.
Remember, the conclusion could be, when they say true or false, they don't mean following or not following from the premises, right? They mean true or false as in true or false information, correct? Yeah, okay. So my answer for that would be true.
The valid deductive argument conclusion could be yes.
Okay. Because valid has nothing to do with soundness. I mean, it does have something to do with soundness, but it doesn't, we're just talking about validity here. So true. True. Yes, the truth of the conclusion is a valid argument and would depend on the truth value of the premises. Although no valid argument has true premises and a false conclusion, valid arguments need not have true premises. Valid, not sound. Valid.
Need not to have true. Okay.
Right.
But sound does, right?
Yes. Okay, an invalid, last one. An invalid deductive argument could have all true statements in it. Invalid deductives. Invalid. So that means that the conclusion does not follow the premises.
Mm.
And they could all be true. All the premises and the conclusions could be true. Is that true?
I'm going to answer first.
Okay. Okay.
I'll let you answer first.
Hold up. An invalid deductive arguments could have all true statements.
And when they mean by statement, they mean the premises and the conclusion.
Would you say it again? Say it again.
When they say all all true statements, that means the statements are talking about both the premises and the conclusion.
Oh, they're talking about, okay.
Can you give an example of the things we've already written on that other page? That would no, not you, him. Don't
Sure,
look
sure.
it up. I think
Sorry.
you can work this through mentally.
Yeah, try to construct one in your head.
What we did earlier?
Well, remember, an invalid just means that the conclusion doesn't follow
Match,
the
right.
premises.
That's a match supremacy. Okay.
Right. It doesn't follow, which means the premises make it so that the conclusion would have to be true. Meaning, like, all planets are made of cheese thing, right?
Right. Okay.
So if it's invalid, that means the conclusion doesn't follow.
Mm-hmm.
But
all the statements, all 3 lines in it are true.
Okay. The structure of it could be true. Okay.
No, wait. We're talking about the actual information.
Right.
True statements.
Like you said, the cheese. All of that could be true, right?
Right. It could be true, but like, let's say given that particular example, those statements would be untrue, right?
Because of the conclusion.
Right. But we're still just talking about this.
Uh-huh.
And what are the conditions for this? To be invalid means that the conclusion does not follow the premises, right?
Right.
Does that have anything to do with the truth of the statements?
Could
we make 3 true statements, 2 of them premises and 1 of a conclusion? So the premises are true, mm-hmm. and the conclusion is true, mm-hmm. but the whole argument is invalid because the conclusion, which is true, does not follow from the premises. Is that possible?
Oh, yes, that's possible.
Okay.
That's possible. Yeah. That's
okay. So we are in the
didn't that match up with the? Hold up. You said you gave an example with the horse, not the cow eating the
20-pound balls. Ball. Right. Cows aren't made of wood, or something like that. Like that's true, right? Like, but yeah. So yes, this is correct. It could have all true statements, and invalid or invalid doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not the information is true. It has to do with whether or not the conclusion follows.
Right.
So let's say true. Yes, the conclusion of the argument could just be true by coincidence. For example, the sky is blue and the grass is green, so you're working this problem now. Right. Admittedly, it is doubtful anyone would intentionally offer such an argument. See, these are all true, right? The sky is blue, the grass is green. So you're working this problem now, meaning this particular logic problem. That has nothing to do with the premises of the sky is blue and the grass is green, right? It does not follow, but it's all true, right?
Right, it's all true, right?
All right, so there we go. That's our little
go back to the examples. The examples, picture that in my head, and it helped me a lot.
Oh, right. So yeah. So here's one that commits a fun little thing called a category error. All men are mortal. Plato is a man. Therefore, all men are Plato.
Oh, okay.
Or we could say all men are mortal. Plato is mortal. That would probably work a little bit better. Therefore, all men are Plato.
There you go.
That works a little bit better. Yeah. We're basically saying that men and Plato have like kind of the same quality.
Yeah.
And imagine that a rodent wants to visit your moon made of cheese.
You're so eager and happy about it.
I mean, I don't blame him. I love cheese.
Yeah, you're over there munching on your sharp cheddar. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to this thing because there's probably going to be some fun stuff going on here. Where were we? We were almost at 4, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that we were kind of like at the top of this or bottom of this section. Okay.
If I answer right now, it'd be a cigarette fallacy. I wasn't here. I don't know.
We stopped where you stopped when you left. Okay, we did read that. I think we looked at A2.
Yeah, I think we was on where it says still another way of thing of stating things. Yeah, I think we started.
Okay. The truth of the premises necessitates the truth of the conclusion. The investigation of these sorts of arguments is called deductive logic. And you know what's funny is that I've run into a lot of people that say, "Oh, deductive logic is when you subtract things, and inductive logic is when you add things up."
Oh wow!
And I think,
Really?
we're not saying reductive logic. We're saying deductive logic, which is not subtraction. I mean, I could see where people would maybe make that little mistake of definition.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see.
But you know, I think they have like kind of just a wrong impression just from the words, because they never really, you know, it's not like you ask 100 people on the street, "Hey, do you know the difference between inductive and deductive logic?" And they're going to just probably give you like a what? Like, I don't even know what those words mean, you know? Like,
Right.
Because this is kind of a special area of philosophy that if you're in college and you're just getting through your classes, a lot of people just take the philosophy 101, or you know, maybe some one step deeper in, but they not too many people go for logic unless they consider themselves like maybe masochists. You know, they think it's going to be really hard, and so they don't want to take it, or they have a special interest. But
Which
it's
reminds me of a joke. I want to tell Von Erich a joke.
Go for it.
Hey, Von Erich, can you guess what the employed philosopher said to the unemployed philosopher?
Employed philosopher said to the unemployed philosopher.
Yeah.
No.
Would you also like fries with that?
What?
Oh my god! So that's what your philosophy degree gets you, huh? A job at McDonald's.
That is so funny.
That's pretty funny, man. Yeah, I think that if you're a philosopher by trade, you're probably either doing something like working at McDonald's, or you are being a philosophy teacher.
Right.
Those are the options.
Yo.
Or you're just sitting around professing things and thinking about them and stuff. You know, being a philosopher, but just for fun. It's a hobby. That was a pretty funny joke, Richard.
Oh my
god. The following should be noted. Suppose that you have an argument, and suppose that the truth of the premises necessitates, meaning guarantees, the truth of the conclusion. Then it follows logically that the truth of the premises. I think we did read this. We did read this through. I think so. In deductive logic. Wait, hold on. Okay, let's reread it anyway. Then it follows logically that the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. In other words, if an argument is judged to be deductively correct, this is where we were. Hey, Sammy, I think this is where we remarked earlier that deductively correct meant valid, and then it is also judged to be inductively correct as well, meaning sound. Right? The converse is not true. Not every inductively correct argument is also deductively correct. The smoke fire argument is an example of an inductively correct argument that is not deductively correct. Actually, maybe they're not talking about validity and soundness. Maybe they're just talking about looking at it through the inductive versus deductive lens.
That's right.
Yeah, let's keep that off let's disregard that.
What's that? You said they're not looking at it in what way? You said
I thought for a second that they were just not mentioning the actual terms yet, but they were talking about when they said they're looking for what was it? Deductively correct first, and then, well, it says, in other words, if an argument is judged to be deductively correct, then it is also judged to be inductively correct as well. I thought that they were talking about validity and soundness when they talked about inductively and deductively correct, but they're not. They're just talking about looking at the arguments as inductive or deductive arguments.
It's like saying if you judge something harshly and really critically, and it still stands up, then you could definitely judge it loosely and it would still stand up.
Okay.
But if you do it loosely first, you might make a mistake.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do we look at it? When does it come to the point that we look at it in validity, as you said, as she said, Space Cat, today?
Well, I mean, in here it says okay, so let's just reread this. Suppose that you have an argument, and suppose that the truth of the premises necessitates, meaning guarantees, the truth of the conclusion. Then it follows logically that the truth of the premises makes likely the truth of the conclusion. In other words, if an argument is judged to be deductively correct, so let's say that we look at an argument and we say this is a valid argument, right? Let's just say that when we judge it to be deductively correct, we are saying that it's valid. Then it is also judged to be inductively correct as well. And I think what they're saying, just like Richard was kind of saying, that if you have a stringent way of looking at something, and when we're saying stringent, we're looking at a stripped down version of it and saying this argument is just about structure, right? And then we zoom out a little bit and say, okay, now what about the information? That's the inductively, like the inductive analysis, as well. But if it's correct on that structure level, like he said, we can judge it loosely as the same and probably be correct about that.
Okay. But you said it's a possibility by us doing that loosely, we can make a mistake, right?
If you do it loosely first, meaning you don't look at the structure.
Structure, okay. Okay. All right.
Because to me, that is a more stringent thing. But go ahead, Richard.
Vaughn, if you'd read that middle paragraph right there for us.
What it says in deductive?
Please.
Okay. In deductive logic, the task is to distinguish deductively correct arguments from deductively incorrect arguments. Nevertheless, we should keep in mind that although an argument may be judged to be deductively incorrect, it may still be reasonable. That is, it may still be inductively correct.
Now, I asked you to read that for 1 point and 1 point alone. Had you read that at the beginning of this show tonight, would you have understood it?
No.
Do you see how much you've learned how quickly?
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're not, like this link, I know it's in the chat somewhere, in the outside chat, but this is this one, and then there's the site that I've been going to for a few days now to get information. I'm gonna just put the thing in here for it. Let's see, Logic homepage. I think that's where it is. This is a huge mountain. If you, after we're done here, get hungry for more, you can check out some of this stuff and what we've been going through, and maybe we'll get to some of this at some point, but is informal fallacies and different types of arguments. But let's see, I'll put another link in here. But there's a huge amount of information. It's lots of fun. And I'll give you the link that will lead to a bunch of stuff that you can check out. Yeah.
Okay. You just put it in. Okay.
Yeah. Just grab those links and put them somewhere for later. Unless we get to them tonight, who knows? So you just read this in deductive logic. Some arguments are not inductively correct and therefore are not deductively correct either. They are just plain unreasonable. Suppose you flunk intro logic, and suppose that on the basis of this, you conclude that it will be a breeze to get into law school. Under these circumstances, it seems your reasoning is faulty. Statements versus propositions. Can I just breeze through this real quick just to see what's on the menu, or did you want to go through it like in the order?
I think you already are.
Well, I'm just kind of previewing a little bit of what they've got coming up. I just want to see like how deep it goes and how quickly. And
you got to appreciate Halsey. Halsey's gonna like ask permission while you're already doing it.
Probably shouldn't even ask.
Which is the same as I don't care what you say, I'm doing this. Which is fine, by the way.
So okay. So what do you guys think? What do you want to press forward with more information? Or you want to what do you want to do?
Hey, I'm here to learn. Whatever
You're into it?
Yeah, whatever you want to do. I'm just here. I'm here to learn. So.
I'm here. Okay, let me take a look real quick at let me just
I look at learning things like going on a diet. You know, if you have successes, you want more of that diet, you know?
Right. Yeah, good point.
That makes logic sense.
I think it does, yes.
That valid and sound. All right.
My diet is working. I'm happy with my diet. Therefore, Halsey should keep reading.
So that's valid. Oh no, invalid, right? So not sound.
Right.
Because the conclusion does not follow.
Right.
Or maybe it does. I don't know.
Well, since I was making that's why I did that, is because I'm using it as an analogy, and actually it is right. It just doesn't make any damn sense without the context.
We got a strong premise, right?
We got true premises and a true conclusion.
There you go. It's just you had to understand the context of what I was using as idioms.
Yeah.
All right. Statements versus propositions. This is kind of is this long?
I like this by Nerdy Rodent. Argumentum ad Christum cosmicum. Which is Richard's arguments for Christianity are cosmic.
Oh man.
So see, we haven't skipped ahead, but we have covered something that is 2 chapters.
See, I deciphered that, Richard, as argument from Space Jesus.
Oh,
yeah.
Space Jesus.
It's an argument from Space Jesus. That's right.
Is there any other kind of Jesus?
No.
All Jesuses are Space Jesuses. Even if there's only ever one Jesus, it's still true,
except
right?
the current one who will become a Space Jesus.
Right. There's the potential Space Jesus there.
But where are we?
Where are we? It's hard to tell till the signs of end times start.
No. I'm saying we're in space. So it's...
Oh, yeah. We're already in space, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. There is no... I mean, it kind of... When we say outer space, we're like, where's the outer part? Like, where's the inner part? Are we just talking about our atmosphere? Like, the inner or what?
As soon as you leave the apple-thin skin that is our atmosphere,
Yeah, okay.
You are in
So that's
space. Yeah.
outer space.
Oh wow.
But we collectively are still afloat in space. So
Yep.
we're in that big circle, right? All
Yeah.
humans
Existence.
are humans.
Yeah. The really big circle. We are stuck in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're stuck in the smaller circle of Earth.
Yes.
And then the smaller circle of humandom.
You ever thought about it? We're on the outside of a spaceship.
Mm.
Yep. And it's actually traveling through space. I think that yeah, go ahead.
And if it wasn't for that spaceship's force field, we'd be dead.
Mm.
Multiple layered force field.
Yes.
We've got the atmosphere and the magnetosphere. Goodness
true.
knows what else.
It's at least a 2-part force field. Yeah.
And aside from the force field, we could utilize our hard exterior probably a lot better than we have been for being protected as we go through our weather and our space travel and stuff.
True. If you're under 2 feet of natural soil, natural mixed loam soils, yeah, you're not getting any sun radiation.
And if tornadoes come around, you're like, oh, it's done, right? Like I didn't even feel it, hear it.
It's uncanny to think, we can hide under the earth from all that, yet that earth layer is like, as I said with the atmosphere, it's like the thickness of an apple skin on an apple.
Mm.
Yeah, it's true. The crust is...
The crust, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
As far as I know, that's a fairly decent comparison. That if the Earth were constructed as an apple, the crust is only as thick as the skin of an apple.
Mm.
My marine science teacher said that he likened it to, like, let's say you leave your hot chocolate on your desk for 3 days, and there's like a little skin that forms on top. Like that's it. That's the crust.
That's it. That's everything. That's everything we can drill into.
I watched,
and we haven't even managed to get through that.
We haven't.
I watched this YouTube channel. Not to sidetrack too much. We'll get right back to this, but I watched this YouTube channel where these guys, I think they're in Georgia, they find these like cave systems, and these, they'll just be walking along in a forest and find what looks like to be like a hole in the ground. And they'll go investigate it, and it turns out to be like, a half a mile deep cave system with these huge caverns and a flowing river through it and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's amazing how, like, when you look at certain parts of the Earth's crust, it's this, sort of available porous layer that has all these levels and all of these cool underground features. And it's like, wow, like with a little creativity and some really interesting architecture, we could probably make some pretty nice underground cities, as long as people were very kind to the environment down there. But yeah,
look at what the Pueblo people, and there's one people of the North American continent that they did that. They just removed rock from a hillside and lived underground in that rock. Their whole city was carved out of rock.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And there's also one in, I think, I can't remember, some South American country. There's another one.
That's the YouTube channel, and almost all of their videos are a lot of fun, and especially the ones where they're going into like an unknown hole in the ground, essentially. If you want to,
would you put it in private chat again? You're a moderator,
Yeah, private chat. Oh, what do I do? Share it?
Yeah, you could just share it in the regular chat.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that I was able to just share.
I'll get this one for you and share it with everybody else.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me see if there's a specific video, maybe. Let's see, video.
Oh man, this is nice. It's a whole city underground, huh?
Oh, well, okay. So they, like, for instance, like this one where they say we found a 150-foot deep cave in the forest. Here, I'll just put it on my screen and share it, I guess. Hold on.
Here we have a composition fallacy.
Oh yeah. Well, there's some people that would do that whole arguing thing where they don't want to say that water is wet at all. You know what I mean? Like they have this argument about how they can argue that it's not actually wet. That's just wet is just a sensation that we feel of evaporation and stuff, and there's no such thing as wet. But,
we were hiking through the woods looking for caves, and we just stumbled upon this one. It just looks like a pit in the ground. Had no clue this was here. Oh wow. Let's see down in there. Wow, there's no telling how deep that is.
At those drop.
Yeah, see if it goes anywhere.
Wow, that rock kept bouncing.
100 feet deep.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude, let's go back to the truck and get some rope and our harnesses and let's go down into it.
Yeah, let's see if we.
All right, we got our rope strung
Okay,
up.
they skipped to it.
We're going in.
Where is this at? Is this in?
I think it's in Georgia.
Oh, it's warm down here. Nice.
Oh, look, other climbers had been there before. You can
All
see
right,
where
I'm
they put
sending
their
the bag
bolts in
down.
and stuff.
That's far.
If ever you
I'll
decide
go-
to do something like this, don't forget you have to climb back up.
I know, right?
Oh, this is
Here, but let's Here, let's see. They.
Oh, it's real fun and easy to go down.
Yeah, right. You have to be pretty
Going
strong
back up is exercise. Yeah.
to be able to lift your own body weight. With your
Yeah, a
upper
couple
body.
thousand times. Yeah.
Yeah. There was this one video where like they had been at it for hours, I guess, and they were climbing up a slick, like muddy, straight up vertical, like deep in
Yeah.
the earth. And the guy was like, I don't know if my arms are about to give out. Like he was afraid
is
that he wouldn't
awesome,
be able
though.
to climb out.
It widens out huge down here. Yeah.
I have never
Oh, I see
seen
your
an
bag down
adjustable
here.
carabiner.
Dude, it's massive down here. Yeah. There's a whole cave down here.
Yeah, I guess they have this thing too, like when they go back up, where they put their
Holy crap.
foot in a loop and push down, and it advances
I
them
think
up
I
a
gotta
little
stop
bit.
at this level.
Yeah.
And then they lift their foot and it goes
We'll
up
go
a
down
bit,
there
and then they
next.
do it again, and it advances them up the rope. So it's not
Yeah,
quite as hard.
I actually
maybe.
designed my own.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically like, they go exploring in this one, but let me see if there's one where they actually find like a river.
They have these one-way friction devices that have a
Mhm.
hand grip on them, but they also have a place for a carabiner at the bottom of them. So it acts as a one-way valve. So I put foot stirrups at appropriate lengths from those, and then using two of those, I can just walk right up a rope.
Nice.
And I'm
Nice.
mostly using my legs. I'm only keeping my body, my upper body. I'm only using that for like stability.
That looks
Wow.
scary. That looks scary though.
It does. It does. It's like a whole nother world down there. And I'm like, wow, what if you like fall and like break
Yeah.
your ankle or something? You know, like oh my god.
Or a rock get loose and hit you on your head, man. I mean,
Oh, this one, yeah, this one is pretty.
Sorry, but I actually would have a hard time resisting this.
what?
It's pretty cool, Richard.
Really?
It's a whole, seriously, it's a whole nother world down there.
Oh wow.
It's a tiny little egg.
I would.
Yeah, a little
I'll-
baby bird.
I'll wait till they build an
Dude, there's
elevator.
bolts we can
Oh,
tie
let's see what this looks like from the outside.
down and see what's inside of it.
So yeah, just right in the middle of like the forest, there's just this,
All right, I'm going down.
this porous
See what this
area,
thing's all about.
that just goes down into the crust. It's crazy. I would love to go down there too, but there's no way I'd have to do a lot of conditioning in order to do this. Oh my god.
I'll wait
Whoa,
until they
dude,
build
it
the
keeps
elevator
dropping.
to go down there. I wouldn't know.
I'll wait and watch the movie, right, Vaughn?
Somebody
Yeah.
booped down here.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody had a boot blowout, I think. Dude, I don't know. It just keeps dropping and dropping. Yeah, we're gonna need the second rope, definitely. And we're about ready to go down. Yeah.
When they go on these adventures, they bring huge duffel bags just full
I'm
of
making
rope.
the drop down.
Huge bundles of rope.
Yeah.
And they
You
bring
have to.
kayaks sometimes
This is
and
super scary.
extra batteries and all
There's a
kinds of
waterfall
stuff.
in here. I see where all that noise is coming from, man. I'm going though.
Okay. Everything looks good, man.
You know, they
Holy
used
crap.
a duffel bag on their rope, but do you know what they were doing there with the duffel bag?
No.
Dude, there's a waterfall coming straight out of a crack.
They were
Yeah.
protecting the rope from a
It's
sharp
so
piece of
scenic
rock.
and
From the I was gonna say I was in mute and I'm like they're making a cushion for their rope essentially, so it doesn't rub up against the rock.
Holy
Look at how
crap,
slick
man.
and muddy that is. It's like fun, eh? Anyway, so this cavern,
Alright,
they go
we're
down
going
into it
down.
like 3 different times and it just keeps
Oh,
going
man.
down and down and down and there's like a full-on river down there.
No, I'm like just outside of the waterfall.
Look at how big it is when they get down there.
God.
Whoa, there's 2 ropes. Whoa. Dude, this is epic. You see it goes down the corner, dude? Okay, let's go. I gotta check out this wall. Oh, does it? What? Dude, that's kind of scary. I don't know if I want to climb that rope. You don't know what it's attached to. No, but I'm kind of feeling a little bold. Like,
And sometimes they find like random ropes from
I'm doing
former
it, though.
climbers. You know?
oh, I'm doing a thing. Yeah. All right, just follow the water. I know, right? I wonder where that goes.
Anyway, you get the idea. Pretty cool, right?
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I see somebody
Okay.
making a house
That
down
one's
there.
behind it.
Totally. Oh my god. I would totally live in one of those places.
Yeah.
I want to live in an underground bunker with like a cave system attached to it, kind of like Batman, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they
Why
work.
not? Why not?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Do we want to go back to this or what do we want to do here? What about you, Sammy? Will you have input? Sammy. Statements versus propositions. We could go through this if you want.
Little point of housekeeping.
Sure.
Subliminal. Peace and respect. Thanks for coming back. Still, your voice to text program is trash, and I can't understand what you're trying to say. And you really need a better program than what you've been using, or something.
Are they maybe translating into English?
They've told me in the past they were using voice to text.
Is this person saying that their links don't show up?
Is that what you got from that?
I'm not
Good
sure.
evening, Richard.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Richard Mayonnaise. Subscriber that will get the video that's been promised 2 nights for the understanding that you think are understand. I just can't make heads nor tails of what it's about.
The only subscriber that will see out of all the videos of my destination to share or hide.
See, I really can't. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be cruel. I just can't figure out what it means.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. Here, let me. I'm gonna put this in the outside chat. Also, this fun little channel from the Action Adventure Twins. Those are the guys that do the caving stuff. All right. Yeah, I don't know. If the person can't type.
I mean, they're showing really good patience and trying to communicate with me, and I deeply appreciate that. I just don't know how to reply.
Have you seen them before?
No, all of our communication has been in text.
On this stream, though? Is this the first
yeah,
time you've
only
ever
on
seen
my
them?
panel.
Okay,
What's
but
that?
is this tonight the first time you've ever seen them?
Not by a long shot.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering this one here where they said something about promised videos.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Do you remember saying
I doubt
something like that?
I doubt those are the right words.
Ah. Okay. All right. Oh, I'm going to turn this down in the other room. Hold on. That is very loud.
I'd be happy to view whatever link you send me to whatever music video if that was your intent.
It's your conclusion of the trash that you think I'm using voice text. Please do understand me eventually. How shall you understand while I will send you a video of music? Hey,
See,
Beth.
because of the word usage there, it also makes me think that they're actually speaking in some other language, and the translator program is also not very good.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
But I challenged them that way before, and they said that I was wrong. But that's true. It sure looks like bad translation.
Kind of does, yeah.
I mean, I've read instructions to assemble some complex items, and it had been translated using a translation program from Japanese to American English. And let me tell you, it looked like that.
Wow.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Let's see.
Like the word ship, meaning to crate something and transfer it via truck somewhere else, came out ocean liner. Well, that's totally not the. Please send by ocean liner UPS. They're like, what the hell did you just do?
That's funny.
UPS ocean liner. Sure. Right.
It's like a code, you have to break it, you know? That's the thing. It's part of a game. You just didn't know you were playing it.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, I got that last one. I figured that one out. They want me to view a music video or something. Send me the link. I'll watch it.
Do they know how to send you stuff?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Let's see. I keep having resistance to have to go into this particular thing because it seems unnecessary, but maybe I'll still get something out of it. I don't know. How do you guys feel about going through this statement versus propositions and form versus content?
I'm just playing host, and I'm very excited to see Von Erich doing new equations in his head that he's never been exposed to. I think that's exciting. So I'm happy to let you guys continue as long as you like.
Well, how do you feel about the next steps? You want to go straight through this, like go like through it, or skip it? I think it's probably okay to just keep going and go through it. It's short. It may be redundant. It may be stuff we already know, but maybe it's stuff we don't know. Are you good with that?
Von Erich.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
If I can't understand it, I just pause, tell you to
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So let's see what we have to say here. Statements versus propositions. Henceforth, by logic, I mean deductive logic. Logic investigates inferences in terms of the arguments that represent them. Recall that an argument is a collection of statements, declarative sentences, one of which is designated as the conclusion, and the remainder of which are designated as the premises. Also recall that usually in an argument, the premises are offered to support or justify the conclusions. Statements and sentences in general are linguistic objects like words. They consist of strings, sequences of sounds, spoken language, or strings of symbols, written language. Statements must be carefully distinguished from the propositions they express, assert, when they are uttered. Intuitively, statements stand in the same relation to propositions as nouns stand to the objects they denote. Just as the word water denotes a substance that is liquid under normal circumstances, the sentence, statement, water is wet, denotes the proposition that water is wet. Equivalently, the sentence denotes the state of affairs, the wetness of water.
So basically, you got to watch. Basically, you have to watch the way the wording is and how it's used within a sentence, and how they.
Yeah, what role is it playing in representing? What information is it attempting to get through? Okay. What are the limitations of how it's said? Okay. How can it be like I guess it's kind of hard to say, as objectively true as possible first before we look at subjective. It's kind of like the deductive versus inductive thing. One's more strict, one's less strict. But this is, okay. I think they're just talking about deductive in this section.
Okay.
So again, statements stand in the same relation to propositions. Nouns stand to the objects they denote, just as the word water denotes a substance. Okay, we read that. The difference between the 5-letter word water in English and the liquid substance it denotes should be obvious enough, and no one is apt to confuse the word with the substance, or the word and the substance, whereas water consists of letters, water consists of molecules. The distinction between a statement and the proposition it expresses is very much like the distinction between the word water and the substance water. There is another difference between statements and propositions. Whereas statements are always part of a particular language, like English, propositions are not particular to any particular language in which they might be expressed. Thus, for example, the following are different statements in different languages, yet they all express the same proposition, namely the whiteness of snow. Snow is white. I think that's German. I'm going to try it as Der Schnee ist weiß.
That was pretty good.
I don't know what the next one is.
La neige est blanche.
Is that French?
Yeah, I believe it's French.
La neige est blanche. All right. In this case, quite clearly, different sentences may be used to express the same proposition. The opposite can also happen. The same sentence may be used in different contexts or under different circumstances to express different propositions, to denote different states of affairs. For example, the statement, "I am hungry," expresses a different proposition for each person who utters it. When I utter it, the proposition expressed pertains to my stomach. When you utter it, the proposition pertains to your stomach. When the president utters it, the proposition pertains to his or her stomach. Okay.
Der Schnee ist weiß and la neige est blanche.
Isn't it like Vice? Like Edelweiss?
The
Vice?
snow. No, I'm saying I can't even say the English. The snow is white.
Der Snow.
Yeah. Der Schnee ist weiß.
Der Schnee. I like Schnee as snow.
It is fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Form versus content. Although propositions or meanings of statements are always lurking behind the scenes, logic is primarily concerned with statements. The reason is that statements are in some sense easier to point at, easier to work with. For example, we can write a statement on the blackboard and examine it. By contrast, since they are essentially abstract in nature, propositions cannot be brought into the classroom or anywhere. Propositions are unwieldy and uncooperative. What is worse, no one quite knows exactly what they are. There is another important reason for concentrating on statements rather than propositions. Logic analyzes and classifies arguments according to their form as opposed to their content. And remember, when they said logic in this area, they're talking about deductive. This distinction will be explained later, whereas the form of a statement is fairly easily understood. The form of a proposition is not so easily understood. Whereas it is easy to say what a statement consists of, it is not so easy to say what a proposition consists of. A statement consists of words arranged in a particular order. Thus, the form of a statement may be analyzed in terms of the arrangement of its constituent words. To be more precise, a statement consists of terms, which includes simple terms and compound terms. A simple term is just a single word together with a specific grammatical role, being a noun or being a verb. A compound term is a string of words that act as a grammatical unit within statements. Examples of compound terms include noun phrases such as the President of the United States or US, and predicate phrases such as is a Democrat. For the purposes of logic, terms divide into two important categories: descriptive terms and logical terms. One must carefully note, however, that this distinction is not absolute. Rather, the distinction between descriptive and logical terms depends on the level, depth of logical analysis we are pursuing. Let us pursue an analogy for a moment. Recall first of all that the core meaning of the word analyze is to break down a complex whole into its constituent parts. In physics, matter can be broken down, analyzed at different levels. It can be analyzed into molecules, into atoms, into elementary particles, electrons, protons, etc. Still deeper levels of analysis are available, like quarks. The basic idea in breaking down matter is that in order to go deeper and deeper, one needs ever-increasing amounts of energy, and one needs ever-increasing sophistication. The same may be said about logic and the analysis of language. There are many levels at which we can analyze language, and the deeper levels require more logical sophistication than the shallower levels, though they also require more energy on the part of the logician.
So you got different levels? Oh, goodness gracious.
Can I make a suggestion?
Oh, wow.
Sure.
If law of faith is actually using voice to text, all you need to do is speak like this with a gap between each word, and it won't struggle as much. But whatever
like
the hell you've written there makes absolutely no sense to, I'm sure, anybody.
Is that the same person? Is that the same person that subliminal?
It might be. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they're asking if they can come on the panel, but the link is right there. Or are they asking if they can? I mean, it's open, right?
Richard, will you closed on your panel if I come up and represent my voice so you can understand that I speak English?
Which I understand that. Yes, you're welcome to come on, except for the fact that this conversation is we're reviewing the fundamentals of logic in a learning exercise. If you're interested in that, please come on.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I notice sometimes is like sometimes someone can come on and the entire conversation changes because Yeah, there's just no respect for continuity.
That's okay. I have a button to kick them out with.
I think he's hung up on Richard's blue balls
I,
comment.
I'm
from the other
not
day.
into insulting people. They can feel free to insult me if they need to. Why you need to, I have no idea, but help yourself.
Very bizarre.
Mm-hmm. The internet, just remember, it's a weird place. Okay, let's see.
Ooh, I want to present an inductive argument.
Please.
The sentence structures of law of faith are very similar to the sentence structures of, what was the other name?
The sublime or subliminal, right?
Subliminal.
Yeah, I think it's like a different account, maybe. I don't know why they would change up, but
Therefore, I conclude that this
subliminal
is actually the same person using the same computerware.
It's maybe they got a slightly better or using it in a slightly different way, the translator, because it seems to be a little more cohesive. Oh, and here's subliminal now.
No, it's not getting any better. It's just the
maybe not.
complexity of what they actually said.
I knew that, but your broadcast is just talking, but now you're trying to represent that just talking actually has a representation of your talking that you're not allowed in me to your just. Okay. All right.
I will be fair so long as you're on topic. Feel free to hit the link. There, I've answered your questions.
Okay. In the present text, we consider 3 different levels of logical analysis. Each of these levels is given a name. By the way, this is all new to me, this little area right here. Syllogistic, I kind of knew what syllogisms were, but I never went to this little deep dive here. Syllogistic logic, centennial logic with an S. No, I'm wrong. Sentential. There we go. Right? Sentential logic and predicate logic, like I said, all new. Whereas syllogistic logic and sentential logic represent relatively superficial, shallow levels of logical analysis. Predicate logic represents a relatively deep level of analysis. Deeper levels of analysis are available.
Wow.
Each level of analysis, and I had no idea about that either.
Wow.
Each level of analysis, syllogistic logic, sentential logic, and predicate logic, has associated with it a special class of logical terms. In the case of syllogistic logic, the logical terms include only the following: all, some, no, not, and is or are. In the case of sentential logic, the logical terms only include sentential connectives: and, or, if, then, or only if. This is interesting. I'm going to have to put this in my notes. In the case of predicate logic, the logical terms include the logical terms of both syllogistic logic and sentential logic. Okay, that makes it easy.
Oh, this is like English. This is like learning English, but then in a logical,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to grab this little bit right here.
It gets really interesting because, I mean, when you study this stuff a lot, it actually identifies the different usages of, say, the word and or, and breaks them down logically. And I think it actually helps people with sentence structure and communication generally.
Yeah, that's yeah. I can see that. But if a person that does not, understand logic, wouldn't they look at it as an error when it comes to academic English that we learn, like past tense, present tense, past participle, all of that? Wouldn't they look at it as an error? if they don't know the logical structures is what we're learning now, if they're not aware of that, wouldn't they look at it as that, or no?
I mean, I think that what happens a lot of the time when people don't really know anything about like the details of reasoning, like correct reasoning or logic or any of that stuff, fallacies, I think that what happens is that they're talking to someone or they're hearing someone speak, whatever, if it's just face to face or in a news broadcast or something, or they're reading something, and they see something that is wrong, right? There is something wrong with an argument, whether it's got a certain kind of fallacy or a combination of fallacies, or it's got funky logic, like the structure doesn't follow or something. They don't know what it's called, but I think that it bothers them, but they just don't know why.
They don't know what it, right. They
Right.
would be unaware of what's going on. Or
So these are all the whys, and it's almost like knowing a whole nother level of like when you go out into the world and you just look and listen, everything changes once you know all this stuff.
Right. It's
A
almost
little bit of housekeeping. Subliminal, don't retract your messages and then expect me to be able to go back and read them and respond. I can't if you retract your message. Okay.
Saying that he left you a music video that he promised you months ago.
Yeah,
Where did
it's
you
still.
leave it?
I see it over here in the side chat on StreamYard, but on the YouTube channel, it's gone, and I can't look it up because it's not there, and I can't do it over here because I'm in charge of the channel right now.
Right? Was it on his channel or something?
Yes, they were asking. They're asking I could go to their channel, by
it doesn't have any content.
Their icon.
But
yeah,
their channel has no content. Maybe it was unlisted just for you or something, or I don't know.
I don't know. Give me a link and I'll look it up. Okay. Subliminal, give me a link. That's all I can say.
You can leave a link in a comment of one of his old videos if the link won't work for you. Here, is he a mod? Not a mod, right? Or
I made him a mod.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, the link should work.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, guys. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Let's see. Where were we?
As noted earlier, I think.
Yeah, as noted earlier, logic analyzes and classifies arguments according to their form. The logical form of an argument is a function of the forms of the individual statements that constitute the argument. The logical form of a statement, in turn, is a function of the arrangement of its terms, where the logical terms are regarded as more important than the descriptive terms. Whereas the logical terms have to do with the form of a statement, the descriptive terms have to do with its content. Note, however, that since the distinction between logical terms and descriptive terms is relative to the particular level of analysis we are pursuing, the notion of logical form is likewise relative in this way. In particular, for each of the different logics listed above, there is a corresponding notion of logical form. The distinction between form and content is difficult to understand in the abstract. It is best to consider some actual examples. In a later section, we examine this distinction in the context of syllogistic logic. As soon as we can get a clear idea about form and content, then we can discuss how to classify arguments into those that are deductively correct and those that are not deductively correct. Okay. So I'm glad that it warns us that it's weird and hard to describe, but that they're going to give us examples. Yay. Okay. So any thoughts or stuff about this before we move to the next section?
It seems like to me you have to pay close attention when speaking to someone, logic to logic, and see how they're using their words and like the predicate and statistics
versus the other kinds.
Yeah, you have to make sure you pay. To me, it seems like you got to pay close attention, even when it comes to linguistic and all of that, and how they use it, because that would determine if you agree with that conclusion on how they make that premise, how they put together.
Right. So let's see. So just to review, in the case of syllogistic logic, the logical terms include only, that's important, only the following: all, some, no, not, and is or are, like all this, are that type of thing. In the case of sentential logic, the logical terms include only sentential, and I don't even know sentential as a word. What does that mean exactly? Let's see.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. What does that mean?
What is it? Is there a lookup thingy on here? Define. Here we go. Relating to a sentence. Oh, okay. Sentential, like sentence, like of a sentence, or not regarding, but relating to a sentence. So it's like sentential in nature. It's yeah, okay. All right. So it's sentential connectives, and, or, if, then, or only if. Okay, so, and in the case of predicate, it contains both. It contains all, some, etc., or, and the other, and, or, if. So it contains both of these if it's predicate.
Nerdy said it simply means to involve a sentence or a proposition.
Yeah, I mean, it said here, let's see, how did it word it again? Relating to a sentence. That's like the bare bones, I'm sure. Where was I? Bare bones sort of thing. Anyway, so let's get back to this. Okay, that's what we just read. Preliminary definitions. In the present section, we examine some of the basic ideas in logic, which will be made considerably clearer in the subsequent chapters. As we saw in the previous section, there is a distinction in logic between form and content. There is likewise a distinction in logic between arguments that are good in form and arguments that are good in content. This distinction is best understood by way of an example or two. Consider the following arguments. All cats are dogs. All dogs are reptiles. Therefore, all cats are reptiles. Okay. So, all this are this. All this are that. Therefore, all this are that. That works, actually. This is valid but not sound. All cats are vertebrates. All mammals are vertebrates. Therefore, all cats are mammals. That one. Okay, so we've got all CRV, all MRV. Yeah, remember it's that same argument that I had diagrammed out where the two circles are inside the big circle, but they're not necessarily touching.
Right.
But the conclusion claimed that they were right on top of each other, essentially.
Yeah.
Or that one is contained within the other, all CRM. So C would have to be inside of M, but that wasn't what the premises gave us.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Neither of these arguments is good, but they are bad for different reasons. Consider their content. Whereas all the statements in A1 are false, all the statements in A2 are true. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that, but they're right.
All cats are dogs. That's not true.
Right. And this isn't true, and neither is that. But this is true, right? They have a spine. All mammals have a spine.
Therefore, all cats are mammals.
Yeah, they're saying that this is true, and it is true, but it's not true because of this, right?
Right. Because but they do have what kill it. They do have what vertebrates, but that doesn't make, just because they have a vertebrae doesn't make them a mammal. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, what it's saying here is we have that same argument where we're saying all. Let's just take away the meanings of the words for a second. All C are V, right?
Okay.
All M are V.
Okay.
So we know something about C and we know something about M, but we do not know the relationship between C and M. We just know that they're both V.
Right.
Right.
So we've got two small circles in a bigger circle, but that doesn't mean the small circles overlap necessarily.
Yeah. So this,
or that they're exactly the same thing.
right. So this conclusion can't be drawn from these premises. So this is not, it's not valid because the conclusion doesn't follow, even though all of these are true.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not valid, it's not sound, but it's still all true.
Still all true.
Still all true. Just not, they're not related to each other the way they should be in order for this whole thing to be true.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So neither of these arguments is good, but they are bad for different reasons. Consider their content. Whereas all the statements in A1 are false, all the statements in A2 are true. Since the premises of A1 are not all true, this is not a good argument as far as content goes, whereas content is a good argument as far as content goes, but not a good argument as far as, what did they say? Form goes? Yes, form. Now consider their forms. This will be explained more fully in a later session. The question is this: do the premises support the conclusion? Does the conclusion follow from the premises? In the case of A1, the premises do in fact support the conclusion. The conclusion does follow in fact from the premises. Although the premises are not true, if they were true, then the conclusion would also be true of necessity. In the case of A2, the premises are all true, and so is the conclusion, but nevertheless, the truth of the conclusion is not conclusively supported by the premises. In A2, the conclusion does not follow from the premises. To see that the conclusion does not follow from the premises, we need merely substitute the term reptiles for mammals. Then the premises are both true, but the conclusion is false. All of this is meant to be at an intuitive level. The details will be presented later. For the moment, however, we give you some rough definitions to help us get started in understanding the ways of classifying various arguments. In examining
so when Bond said, sorry about that. So when Bond said, well, that's not true because there could be something that has a spine that is not a mammal. Yeah, that was spot on, man.
Not okay. And this is another thing that we can, like let's say we say all cats are vertebrates. The reverse of that is all vertebrates are cats, right? One is true, one is not. One's true, one's not true. All mammals are vertebrates. All vertebrates are mammals. Now, fish have spines, right? So that's not a mammal. Therefore that doesn't even fit. But it's kind of fun sometimes to look at what the reverse or inverse of something is, just to see how it works, like how it's bad, even if it doesn't relate to anything, just to look at it. Okay, let's see here. Where were we? Oh, here. All of this is meant to be at an intuitive level. The details will be presented. Did we already go through this?
No.
For the moment, however, we give some rough definitions to help us get started in understanding the ways of classifying various arguments. In examining an argument, there are basically two questions one should ask. Are all of the premises true? Does the conclusion follow from the premises? Yeah, first, like, I know that they say both of these things, but personally, I always go for step 2 first and then step 1. Because this is validity. This is kind of the test for validity. This is the test for soundness. The classification of a given argument is based on the answers to these two questions. In particular, we have the following definitions. An argument is factually correct if and only if all of its premises are true. An argument is valid if and only if, this is important language right here, if and only if its conclusion follows from its premises. An argument is sound if and only if it is both factually correct and valid. But yeah.
Oh, so if it does not, okay, so the argument is valid. So if it does not follow the premises, it makes it invalid, right?
Right. And if it's invalid, it can't be sound.
It can't be
So that's
sound,
why
right?
I always run it through the validity test first, because it's a prerequisite for soundness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta keep that. I just gotta keep that in my head right there. Make sure I keep that in my head.
Yeah, I mean, are you taking notes?
Yes.
Cool.
I got this saved.
We got this too. You know, you
Right.
can go back and look at all this and take
Right.
screenshots and whatever
Right.
you want to do.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm gonna go back and this probably use this live right here and go back and listen to what we all talked about.
oh yeah, totally. And there's all those little quizzes and like tests and all that other info on that other side as well. So, like I said,
The biggest deal here, Vaughn, is that you're enjoying it. That's the most important thing.
Huge. Yeah, totally. And that you're like ready for more.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so we just got through that. Basically, a factually correct argument has good content and a valid argument has good form. A sound argument has both good content and good form. Note that a factually correct argument may have a false conclusion. The definition only refers to the premises. Okay, whether an argument is valid is sometimes difficult to decide. Sometimes it's hard to know whether or not the conclusion follows from the premises. Part of the problem has to do with knowing what follows from means. In studying logic, we are attempting to understand the meaning of follows from. More importantly, perhaps, we are attempting to learn how to distinguish between valid and invalid arguments. Although logic can teach us something about validity and invalidity, it can also teach us very little about factual correctness. The question of the truth or falsity of individual statements is primarily the subject matter of the sciences, broadly construed. As a rough and ready definition of validity, the following is offered. An argument is valid if and only if it's impossible for the conclusion to be false when the premises are all true.
Wow.
So, in other words, the conclusion must follow. See, I think that this is actually, I think it's giving validity too much almost. An argument is valid if and only if it is impossible for the conclusion to be false. Oh, I think that this is just their way of saying that the conclusion must follow. I don't know if they're saying anything about the content of the premises being actually true.
Sure, while the premises are all true.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but as we saw in other arguments, validity has to do only if the conclusion follows, and it doesn't matter if the premises are true.
Sure, they're covering the whole thing there.
Okay. An alternative definition might be helpful in understanding validity. To say that an argument is valid is to say that if the premises were true, like if all planets were made of cheese, then the conclusion would necessarily follow to be true, or would necessarily also be true. So this gives it. So when they say an alternative definition, this is what I think of right here. We have to say, if this was true, will the conclusion also be true? If the moon is a planet and all planets are made of cheese, then would the moon be made of cheese? Yes, it would, right? So I don't think of it as this, because to me, this almost wants to establish soundness as well. If we're saying premises are all true, I kind of have a problem with that, but this is right on the money for me.
A little point of housekeeping. I'm going to shut this down to the public. If you guys, somebody wants to come in, please hit the link while I'm still smoking this cigarette, because after that, I'm going to make this private just for Space Cadet and Von Erich as they please to go on.
Will the link stay up somewhere, or will it matter?
The link will stay up until I end the broadcast, yes.
Oh, okay.
Which would be approximately 10 minutes. So if you want to come in now.
Okay. Let's see.
Are we going to do a part 2 to this? because it'd be nice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, we kind of had this ongoing thing. And what I might suggest to the people that were not here for this, that were kind of in on the other stuff, is to watch this stream.
Yeah.
And then we can sort of go forward together with some other stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's also some stuff like there's 2, I think, or maybe 3 at this point, streams where we discussed a bunch of information on not a lot of formal fallacies, but a ton of informal fallacies. And we stumbled through a little bit of it, but it's I think we got through it pretty well. But we spent a lot of time kind of hashing stuff out. And so that might also be useful for you. Just like I'd have them watch this one, I would say check those ones out. I think by the second one, we were probably flowing along a little bit better than maybe the first, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. But those are on Sammy's channel, I think, and possibly Will's. And I had a really short one, but I would just stick with the ones on Sammy's and Will's channel. I think it was just Sammy, actually. And I don't know, I'll have to go back and look, because I think he had one that was actually called Fallacies, but I don't know what the second one was called, because I think that I went in and we just ended up talking about it, like we just ended up sort of, just like you were eager to get back to it. They were talking about something else entirely, and we just got back on the subject and went for like a couple more hours. So anyway.
Yeah, but that's like it's just. I was also saying it's good because it's good for me, because if I read this on my own, I know I would be confused. But by me doing it with y'all able to give me examples and different things that I'm able to comprehend easily.
No, and it's abstract information at first. It's changing something that you've been doing all your life. Right. Changing language meanings and special references and stuff. And so it's not exactly like, like we have to have this preparation for absorption of this kind of stuff, and then absorb it. It's like a 2-step process sometimes.
Exactly.
I gotta get my kitty because he wants it. Come on, buddy. Come on in. All right. Everything all right? Okay. Anyway. Okay. So do you want to go forward with form and content in syllogistic logic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So form and content in syllogistic logic. In order to understand more fully the notion of logical form, we will briefly examine syllogistic logic, which was invented by Aristotle in 384 to 322 BC. The arguments studied in syllogistic logic are called syllogisms, more precisely, categorical syllogisms. Syllogisms have a couple of distinguishing characteristics which make them peculiar as arguments. First of all, every syllogism has exactly 2 premises. That's interesting. I never knew that before. Whereas in general, an argument can have any number of premises. Secondly, the statements that constitute a syllogism, 2 premises, 1 conclusion, come in very few models, so to speak. More precisely, all such statements have forms similar to the following statements. All Lutherans are Protestants. All dogs are collies. Some Lutherans are Republicans. Okay, so I guess these are 2 different arguments right here, sort of. Some dogs are cats, or it's actually the same argument, just put in different form, I guess, different words. Some dogs are cats. No Lutherans are Methodists. No dogs are pets. Some Lutherans are not Democrats. Some dogs are not mammals. In these examples, the words written in bold-faced letters are descriptive terms, and the remaining words are logical terms relative to syllogistic logic, like all are, no are, some are not. In syllogistic logic, the descriptive terms will refer to classes, for example, the class of cats or the class of mammals. On the other hand, in syllogistic logic, the logical terms are all used to express relations among classes. For example, the statements on line 1 state that a certain class, Lutherans and dogs, is entirely contained in another class, Protestants and collies. Note the following about the 4 pairs of statements above. In each case, the pair contains both a true statement on the left and a false statement on the right. Also, in each case, the statements are about different things. Thus, we can say that the 2 statements differ in content. Note, however, that in each pair above, the 2 statements have the same form. Thus, although all Lutherans are Protestants differs in content from all dogs are collies, these 2 statements have the same form. The sentences 1 through 4 are what we call concrete sentences. They are all actual sentences of a particular actual language, English. Concrete sentences are to be distinguished from sentence forms. Basically, a sentence form may be obtained from a concrete sentence by replacing all the descriptive terms by letters, which serve as placeholders. For example, sentences 1 through 4 yield the following sentence forms. All X are Y, some X are Y, no X are Y, and some X are not Y. Okay, so this is the form only. It doesn't matter about Lutherans and dogs and collies and things. We're just taking the all this are that form and stripping away all the language that we can sort of react to. That's how I see it. Okay. The process can also be reversed. Concrete sentences may be obtained from sentence forms by uniformly substituting descriptive terms for the letters. Any concrete sentence obtained from a sentence form in this way is called a substitution instance of that form. For instance, all cows are mammals and all cats are felines are both substitution instances of sentence form F1, which is this, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Just as there is a distinction between concrete statements and statement forms, there is also a distinction between concrete arguments and argument forms. A concrete argument is an argument consisting entirely of concrete statements. An argument form is an argument consisting entirely of statement forms. The following are examples of concrete arguments. All Lutherans are Protestants. All Lutherans are Protestants. Some Lutherans are Republicans. Some Protestants are Republicans. All Lutherans are Protestants. Some Protestants are Republicans. Some Lutherans are Republicans. Note, henceforth, we use the slash symbol to abbreviate therefore. So I guess there we go. In order to obtain the argument form associated with A1, we can simply replace each descriptive term by its initial letter. We can do this because the descriptive terms in A1 all have different initial letters. This yields us the following argument form. Or this yields the following argument form. An alternate version of the form using XYZ is given to the right. So
you got a tom. You have a tomcat because my cat makes that sound just like that.
that's my sweetheart.
Yeah,
He's a funny cat. He'll like walk around and meow like he wants something, right? But what he wants is for me to pet him. But he doesn't just come up and ask for petting. He goes and like complains around a bit, and then when I say come here, he comes in over and like gets petted.
Yeah, mine. I'll be sleeping. He'll come and touch my face. Touch
Here's some food.
Yeah, I'm like,
pet me.
And when he makes that noise, I be like, "Hey, hold up, brother. We're not gonna have that right now. You gotta wait." Yeah, I've been having that for like. He's like,
oh, and you hear this one? Listen, he's a talker. Hello. You hear him?
Yeah. That's how mine sound too, just like that.
Hello, you want to come in? All right, here we go. Hello. How are you?
Okay, guys, I'm gonna turn this to private now, and
cool.
To the 5 people watching, thank you so much for attending. I hope you at least gain some interest in this topic, and we'll look into it further, possibly in further streams or in streams that Halsey has already mentioned. You two are welcome to stay as long as you like, and when you leave, it will shut down. Okay?
Oh no, I
Cool.
have to jump off anyway. My mom's about to call me from Thailand. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Nice.
Okay.
So,
Well, we were, just
I'll
for
be-
reference sake, we were on section 7 at the very bottom of the section. So that's if you pick it up again, that's where you'll do it.
Well, I was hoping that Richard do a part 2. If he do it there in part 2, because it'd be best for me to do it with y'all.
Oh, I'm totally into finishing this whole like booklet or whatever it is, this workbook. This is 26 pages and we're only on 12. I'm totally down for doing.
Are you guys both available tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, what is it? Thursday. Actually, I think I'm going to a dinner, but I'm not sure exactly what time. Let's see. What time is it now?
Yeah, what time?
Later at night, it would probably be fine. I mean, it's already 11. I don't know what time you'd plan on.
You guys hash that out real quick, and I'll comply.
Oh, if it's late, that'd be great on my end. If you
Okay, what time would be a good starting time for you?
Oh, 11 would be good, or 10, something like that would be good.
Okay, I could probably do 10 o'clock, no problem.
Okay.
10 o'clock. Okay, 10
Awesome.
o'clock tomorrow night. We'll pick this back up, guys.
Cool.
Closing thoughts.
Oh,
Thank you.
I appreciate it. We doing this today, Richard. It's been a blessing to me, and so now I can see. I'm seeing the difference in what I should do when it comes to explaining dispersion.
Oh, and this is just a slice. I'm not going to say it's the tip. It's the tip, but it's also a pretty nice big chunk of the iceberg.
Okay.
But there's a whole other thing besides this that will, I think, get you interested and excited about this. So,
and where did you guys leave off? I want to make a note of that.
Section 7, near the end of the section, the last page of it.
Okay.
It's page 12. Yeah, page 12.
All right. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you all guys very much. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Peace and respect to you all.
All right.
And I look forward to the day where we're all great friends. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for finding this text, Richard. This is a good find for sure.
It is a pretty good one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, you have a good night. Thank you for this.